Kicking off our story, we see an awesome hunter stadium where some incredible stuff is about to go down. Swarming a respected man, eager reporters scramble to get the scoop on the powerful warriors. Striding hurriedly, a focused young man makes his way down the corridors with firm steps, dead set on reaching his goal because, handing over a valuable document, the older instructor congratulates our main character for all his hard work, and then, grinning from ear to ear, the dear boy salutes, celebrating his dream of professional success because, flashing back to a grim past, our hero spent ages poring over difficult books to cure his weakness, etching it into his memory. Our boy acquired a monstrous amount of knowledge about these creatures' weaknesses. Trusting his brain completely, the intelligent young man is thrilled, knowing all those grueling hours of studying paid off, but, completely killing the vibe, the experienced old-timer's face falls as he delivers a tense warning, shattering the festive mood. Showing a paper scribbled in red, the evaluator warns that such a license has zero practical use. Freezing on the spot, the young man listens in disbelief to a cruel order forbidding him from even dreaming of fighting on the front lines, because, laying it all out, the old man makes it clear that memorizing some useless manual doesn't win a fight without a shred of strength. Shocking everyone, the harsh evaluator coldly confirms that our guy would be toast before he could even scratch a single little monster. Cursing out of pure rage, the unlucky hero breaks down, lamenting that he's back to being just another jobless dude on the street. However, shining brightly out of nowhere, a mysterious magic system pops up in front of him, revealing an event that will change everything. Ruffling his hair, he freaks out in his bedroom chair because he just lost his one and only shot at a job. Giving up completely on this crazy dream, our hero stumbles upon a sketchy-looking game on the glowing screen. Squinting at the notification, he bravely starts the mysterious online game to forget his troubles. Analyzing the sinister creatures on the screen, he quickly realizes he needs to recruit some heavy hitters because, playing with focus, he discovers that this tower defense game isn't as simple as it first seemed. However, as he powers up his recruited monsters, the kid has to invest heavily in the team he's built. Losing miserably, he discovers that every time he bites the dust, all his hard-earned progress gets wiped. Complaining in disbelief, our hero realizes how incredibly unbalanced these mysterious battles are. Staring at the screen, incredulous, he notices a puny little creature demolishing a huge monster with no trouble at all. Stretching way back in his chair, he concludes that those crazy developers must really hate their players. Grinning confidently, the young man feels like the king of the world, remembering he makes a living by beating these absurd challenges. Slumping back into his seat, sad again, the guy laments his failure, crying over old misfortunes. But, straightening his posture, our tired protagonist is hit with a flood of flashing messages in his livestream chat, so, gripping the mouse tightly, our young man gets back in the zone, greeting all the folks watching him online. However, his eyes bulge in astonishment, shocked as he reads a terrifying comment that just dropped out of nowhere into his panel. Reading the live chat messages, the young man plays it cool when his subscribers doubt if he really works as a monster hunter. Breaking out in a cold sweat, our protagonist forces a fake smile, thinking he could never reveal his failure as a warrior, because, cracking his knuckles to focus on the screen, our hero quickly tries to change the subject, getting ready to play, but, putting on a cool jacket, the kid tells his viewers that today will be the last day he plays this sinister game, so, staring at the glowing monitor, he decides to attempt an insane challenge that no one on the server has ever completed. Showing the game's intense art, the main mission requires defending the castle against horrifying creatures pouring out of a portal. Typing rapidly on the keyboard, the focused young man announces he will immediately start the dreaded wave number 700. Showing off his fully upgraded base, our boy reminds his fans of all the money he invested to reach this final stage. However, smiling a little nervously, the skilled guy confesses that breaking this new record would be a legendary milestone in his career. Firmly clicking the start button, the decisive round begins in that pixelated universe, to the delight of the chat, but, with his hand trembling slightly over the mouse, the player takes a deep breath, trying to control his nerves before the brutal assault. However, screaming in desperation, our protagonist is violently sucked in by a bizarre energy that erupted from his own computer screen, because, spinning wildly, a mysterious portal appears, announcing the official start of Wave 700, but now in real life. Growling with rage, monstrous beasts leap out of the dimensional rift, ready to destroy anything in sight. Charging forward like a terrifying avalanche, an endless army of wild beasts rushes in, eager to cause some major damage. Looking at the screen, our protagonist notices the number of creatures is surreal and decides to focus on crowd control. Drawing the bowstring, our hero's goblin archer prepares a powerful attack to clear the initial area. Raining down from the sky, glowing arrows tear through the air at high speed, landing right in the middle of the enemy horde, because, hitting its mark, the attack pierces the dog-like creatures, dealing good damage to the monsters of frontline. But, eyes widening in terror, the little archer realizes the enemies are already on top of him and screams in fear. Falling on the field, the valuable level 100 minion is mercilessly decimated by the cruel beast's claws. Gritting his teeth in anger, the kid mutters in frustration because that character cost him a boatload of cash in the game. Advancing relentlessly, the sinister wolves break through the defense, proving that the mass attack is far too dangerous, so slashing through the invaders, a red magic scythe sweeps across the battlefield, trying to hold the line at the castle entrance because, playing his ace, the level 130 succubus queen appears, floating, and ready to clean up the mess. However, looking back in surprise, the powerful ally senses an overwhelming presence approaching from behind her. Roaring absurdly loud, a giant three-headed dog appears, striking terror into our hero's main defense, but in shock, the protagonist wonders how that enormous Cerberus managed to break through the blockade so quickly and get there. Trying to retreat quickly, the succubus jumps back, looking to regroup before taking a hit from that monster. However, biting down without mercy, the Hound of Darkness chomps on the magical character with brutality, crushing the boy's hope. Tearing across the screen, a cruel notification shows that more valuable units have been completely destroyed in the gory combat. Sweating bullets, the young man's eyes widen as he realizes the monsters from Wave 700 are way too strong. Losing troops left and right, our hero watches in desperation as his best warriors turn to dust in a matter of seconds because, slumping into his chair, the frustrated kid laments seeing years of his effort being erased so easily. Exploding everything in their path, the enemy horde advances mercilessly, making it clear that the player's defeat is certain. But, accepting the sad end, our protagonist sighs, noticing there are no warriors or buildings left to defend. Focusing on the digital map, only the main castle remains, standing alone amidst the chaos, awaiting the attack. Smashing into the defenses, the furious wolves destroy the final barrier, making the guy accept his downfall. Roaring at the palace gate, the beasts try to invade while an incredibly bright light shines from within, so, illuminating the entire scene, a majestic figure appears, sitting calmly on the royal throne, surprising everyone, because, flashing on the screen, a golden panel announces that our incredible hero was the first player to reach this stage. His eyes widening in confusion, the guy can't make any sense of that mysterious system message. However, emanating an absurd amount of energy, the warrior goddess shifts in her seat, showing that the game isn't over yet. Staring coldly at the invaders, the powerful queen displays an overwhelming aura, ready for a serious fight. Opening her bright red eyes, the supreme monarch finally awakens, changing the fate of this battle. Holding the sword, the old servant offers the shining weapon, showing immense respect for his master. Stepping firmly on the ground, the mysterious warrior walks slowly to take her place on the front line, because, wielding her golden blade, the imposing queen rises for battle, emanating a powerful aura. Jaw on the floor, our hero freaks out in his chair, because this character isn't even supposed to move in the game. Drooling with hatred, the giant wolves invade the main hall, confident they're about to finish everyone inside. But, facing the army of beasts, the majestic monarch stands alone, protecting the entire castle. However, remembering his past defeats, our boy admits in shock that this bizarre scene has never happened before, which is why, blasting the enemies with a death glare, the white-haired goddess shows no fear of the danger. Drawing her sword with extreme speed, the warrior prepares a furious attack, tearing the very air, because, slicing through the cruel beasts, a formidable strike takes down the giant dogs, sweeping the enemies off the map. Destroying the entire horde in the blink of an eye, the woman clears the entrance, leaving the young man speechless. Leaping outside, the queen charges forward, ignoring our protagonist's desperation, because, diving right into the middle of the monster swarm, she faces an endless crowd of evil creatures. But, shining like a shooting star, the monarch falls from the sky, carrying an absurdly destructive magical power. So, slashing across the battlefield, a colossal golden explosion vaporizes all the monsters, completely saving the game. Obliterating the battlefield, a colossal explosion sends chunks of earth flying everywhere. Catching the enemies by surprise, the incandescent light melts the beasts before they can even understand the attack, because, moving at an absurd speed, the powerful queen becomes a beam of light, slicing through the entire enemy landscape. Focusing on the next target, the mysterious woman shows a deathly glare filled with fury and magical power. But, crashing into the monsters, the warrior unleashes a formidable attack, creating a blinding flash on the scene, which is why, slicing through giant sharks and sea beasts, the monarch decimates the invaders, showing off her raw strength. Pulverizing several beasts at once, the kill messages just keep scrolling up the game screen. Emanating an incredibly strong golden energy, the Supreme Queen prepares for the final blow, because, tearing through the enemy's flesh, the shining blade spares no creature that crosses its path. So, wiping everything off the map, a giant pillar of light exterminates thousands of monsters, leaving our protagonist in shock. Sighing in relief, the imposing warrior goddess maintains her cold posture after slaughtering the entire army. But, planting her feet firmly, she halts her advance, showing perfect control over her own body. Creating a huge luminous barrier, the monarch swings her sword, clearing away any dust left from the fight. So, gripping the hilt of her weapon tightly, She shows she's ready for more while the young man can barely believe they won, because, bathed in a divine aura, the goddess proves to be the strongest being on the server, reigning supreme in that destroyed world. Completely destroying the red dragons, the divine light erases any sign of enemy life from the map. Utterly shocked, our hero receives well-deserved congratulations from the system while admiring the goddess, because, wiping out every last little monster, the bright screen finally announces the completion of the impossible wave 700. Staring at the monitor without blinking, the kid tries to process the absurd massacre he just witnessed in the game, but, smiling excitedly for the stream, our protagonist comments to the chat about how ridiculously OP and broken the character was, and then, noticing the sudden silence, the young man realizes his mouse is frozen and wonders if the stream just crashed. So, a strange message pops up. An old viewer thanks the player, proving the stream was still running smoothly. Eyes widening in confusion, the guy notices that this mysterious user hadn't said a word in chat for about 5 years, because, reading the bizarre text, the kid discovers that his gameplay apparently awakened this Lord from a long, deep slumber. However, scratching his head, clueless, our hero thinks this crazy subscriber is just typing a bunch of nonsense, but showing people bowing in reverence, the mysterious user says they will have a new beginning, guided by the great player. Vanishing completely from the room, the viewer dips from the stream, leaving the guy wondering if he was the only one who read that. Taking a deep, tired sigh, our protagonist laments his own bad luck, trying to focus on wrapping up the video. However, getting a huge scare, the young man's eyes pop open when a very strong blue glow starts leaking from inside the screen, because, sucking in everything around it, a massive magic portal swallows the kid into the game itself, changing his life forever. Glowing intensely, the computer screen emits a swirl of blue magic energy, engulfing the entire room. Eyes wide with fear, our hero backs away, trying to understand what the heck is happening out of nowhere, because, thrown back in his chair, the kid is completely paralyzed as the bright light blinds him. Staring at the mysterious glow, the young man sees something reflected in his pupil that looks like it came straight out of that game. But, appearing and floating in the air, a bright blue panel announces that he has just received new special abilities. So, trembling with pure excitement, the guy wonders if he finally achieved the rare double awakening for his magic class, which is why, recalling the evaluator's harsh words, our protagonist had always suffered for being a very low-level hunter. Thinking back to the doctor's warning, the kid knew that fighting in real dungeons was a death sentence for someone so weak, because, flashing back to the past, he remembers that his only salvation would be to awaken new powers to officially raise his rank. However, smiling in relief, the rejected warrior realizes that all the scorn he's faced his whole life might be over. But, placing his hands on the desk, our hero faces the floating panel, fiercely accepting this new golden opportunity. Grabbing the stream microphone, the skilled player prepares to make a shocking announcement to his loyal followers. Grinning with immense confidence, the kid announces the permanent end of his channel to go back to working as a monster hunter, because, changing scenes, we see a peaceful morning illuminating the quiet neighborhood where our dear hero currently lives. Breathing in the fresh air, the young man admires the view, feeling that today will be a wonderful day to test his powers. Sitting on his bed, our protagonist stares in frustration at the mysterious panel floating in his room. Reading his original stats, he notices that his points are still ridiculously low, just like before, because, sighing in disappointment, the kid realizes that this so-called new awakening didn't increase his raw strength. However, hearing a sudden noise, the young man's eyes widen in surprise at another screen flashing in front of him. Analyzing the system notification, a message asks if he wants to check his newly acquired abilities. So, a confident smile spreading across his face, our hero ignores his weak stats, dreaming of a high-level power, which is why, quickly clicking accept, the excited guy confirms the option to discover his new magic tricks. Reading the bizarre names, the kid is completely confused by the options to talk or trade things with the monarch because, scratching his head, not understanding a thing, our protagonist decides to test it by activating the power to see the practical result. But, pressing the virtual button, the warrior tries to use the strange trade ability with the goddess. Getting a rude awakening, he receives a red error message warning him about a complete lack of gold in his account. Throwing himself onto the bed, he fumes with anger because he finally got powers but can't use any of them. So, looking to the side thoughtfully, our guy laments not having anyone trustworthy to ask for help with this. But, staring at his turned-off computer, he suddenly remembers that he might have one last shot at salvation because, recalling the bizarre message on his stream, he concludes that the mysterious viewer must know what's going on. Anxiously clicking the start stream button, the kid prays for the mysterious viewer to show up soon. Grinning excitedly, our hero greets the user, noticing that he entered the room at the exact same moment because, quickly locking the stream, the young man makes the broadcast completely private so they can talk one-on-one. Resting his chin in his hands, the guy says he needs to ask some serious questions, getting a green light from the mysterious fan. Staring intently at the screen, our protagonist remembers that his powers appeared right after he read that bizarre message, which is why. Recalling the strange words of devotion, the young man concludes that this subscriber has everything to do with his recent awakening, but, sweating nervously, the kid confesses to the viewer that he suddenly gained powers the day before. With a serious expression, our hero asks directly if the fan knows anything about this miracle. Eyes widening in shock, the guy reads the confirmation on the screen, proving his suspicions were spot on. However, thinking about the complexity of magic, the young man knows very well that an awakening transcends any normal human control, so, imagining powerful gods, our hero suspects the user as a divine entity, wondering the reason for this help because, scratching his head in confusion, the kid thanks him for the honesty but admits he's totally lost in all this craziness. Crossing his arms thoughtfully, the guy questions why he was chosen and received such an absurd favor. Popping up on the bright screen, the mysterious fan's answer appears, revealing an incredibly grand secret. Illuminating our protagonist's mind, the message says that the Supreme Monarch chose him as her great lord. Eyes widening in confusion, the kid wonders if he was really the one who awakened the powerful warrior. Recalling the majestic image of the queen, our hero connects the dots with his last move in the game, because, reading the clear message from the chat, the young man confirms that his victory saved the goddess from an eternal slumber. Falling back in his chair, our protagonist is shocked to see that his life is completely tied to the game, but, holding a magic lamp, the mysterious entity says that everything will make sense at the right time, which is why. Explaining calmly, the hooded figure reveals that the powers are a humble gift of thanks. Sweating bullets, our hero asks how the heck he's supposed to activate these new abilities he received, because, glowing brightly, the lantern shows that talking with the goddess is a power that needs time. However, questioning the uselessness of the magic, the guy complains that the system asked for a lot of gold, and he has none. Falling completely silent, the mysterious entity seems not to understand the boy's problem. Staring at the screen in confusion, our protagonist finds the sudden muteness of his great magical benefactor strange, but, quickly grabbing a glowing book, the being starts flipping through the pages, looking for some explanation, because, emanating a strong light, the old diary reveals the system's secrets to the divine messenger. So, coughing in embarrassment, the mysterious figure admits they made a mistake when delivering the spells, which is why. His face falling in disappointment, the young man can't believe the divine being forgot such a silly detail. Pointing a glowing finger, the hooded figure announces that 50 gold coins will be deposited into his account right now. Spinning his staff, he promises that once the boy has the gold, he can use the spells and figure out the details later. Vanishing in a flash of blue light, the entity says goodbye, mentioning they are looking forward to working with the hero. But, announcing in the chat, the stream confirms that the mysterious viewer has left, leaving the young man all alone. Pinching his own cheek, our protagonist tries to make sure this whole crazy thing wasn't just a dream because, scratching the back of his neck thoughtfully, the guy starts connecting the dots between the entity and his magical awakening. However, hearing a sudden noise, the kid jumps at a magical notification glowing in front of him. Eyes widening with emotion, he reads the message confirming the deposit and the unlocking of his abilities. So, opening the system shop, the warrior is faced with a huge screen full of glowing options. Analyzing the trade tabs, the young man notices that the blue panel shows several different monsters for purchase, because, trembling with shock, the guy realizes that the interface is identical to the game he just beat a little while ago, which is why. Scrolling through the list of creatures, he finds goblins, wolves, and orcs, exactly like the ones he used before, but, grinning confidently, the young man imagines he can summon this army in real life, just like in the game. Letting out an excited chuckle, the hero is happy, realizing he won't have to fight alone with his low level anymore. So, checking his measly 50 gold, the kid discovers that the only thing he can afford at the moment is a goblin slave. His eyes widening in shock, our hero stammers as he sees something unbelievable in the magic shop because, staring at the system screen, he notices that the powerful monarch costs an absurd billions of gold coins. Breaking into a cold sweat, the kid laments that this insane price and the high affinity requirement make the purchase impossible. But, analyzing the situation carefully, the young man starts to wonder how he's going to rack up all that cash. Sitting in his chair, the protagonist crosses his arms, trying to figure out how he's going to earn the necessary gold. So, forcing his memory, our hero recalls the exact methods for farming money in the old game, because, visualizing the victory screens, the guy knows that the first way to make a profit is by clearing dungeons. Remembering the loot, the young man recalls that you can also make good money by hunting beasts and selling the items. Resting his chin in his hand, he concludes that reality must follow the exact same rules as the game, which is why, imagining the danger, the kid accepts that he'll have to face terrifying monsters head-on in real life. However, assessing his trash tier attributes, the guy recognizes he could barely defeat the weakest monsters alone. Staring at the hologram of the goblin slave, the protagonist places all his hopes in this small creature, because, firmly clicking the purchase button, the young man spends his only 50 coins, praying it works out. Popping up on the screen, the system notification confirms the contract and immediately begins summoning the small minion. So, shielding his face from a strong gust of wind, the hero is shocked to see a huge magic whirlpool opening in the middle of his room. Sweating bullets, the kid feels an absurd magical aura coming from the summon because, eyes widening in shock, he instantly recognizes the creature in front of him. Cutting to the big city, we see a gigantic office building illuminated by the sun. Typing quickly on the keyboard, the receptionist looks up the hunter's registration in the database. Flashing on the blue screen, our hero's official profile confirms he has the lowest rank in the system, but, confirming the data, the woman at the reception asks if he's really going to work alone. Showing the available options, the secretary says there are 4 open missions at the moment because, projecting a holographic map, the receptionist offers the complete list of tasks for the guy to look at. Carefully analyzing the areas, our protagonist tries to choose the least conspicuous place possible. Pointing to his selected target, the young man firmly states which of those missions he'll be taking. Looking concerned, the woman warns that the location has no support in case of an emergency, but, grinning very confidently, our boy assures her he'll be fine, completely ignoring the danger, because, hearing laughter in the background, the guy notices the other hunters mocking his suicidal choice. Finalizing the registration, the friendly receptionist promises to send the mission details via message. Placing his thumb on the digital scanner, our fearless hero confirms his identity and sets off for the hunt. Adjusting her glasses, the receptionist clears our hero's departure after completing the whole process. Thanking her for the help, the young man dismisses any further questions, ready to start his first job, because, striding firmly toward the mission, the rookie feels a mix of butterflies and excitement in his stomach. Walking excitedly out of the building, he decides it's the perfect time to test his new magic, so, changing scenes, the blue panel highlights the goblin hunt on a mountain far from the city, which is why, walking along a dirt road, the focused warrior realizes he's finally reached his destination. Turning his head in surprise, our protagonist hears someone desperately yelling for a hunter, but, running through the fields, a hurried little old man approaches, waving his arms in the middle of the brush. Firmly grasping the boy's hands, the old man shows immense relief at finding help because, bowing respectfully, the humble resident emotionally thanks our hero for being there. Talking with the elderly man, the guy understands that those terrifying creatures have been terrorizing the entire region. Reflecting on the mission, the hunter notes that the low payout keeps stronger professionals away. However, staring at the boy with pity, the kind old man questions if he can handle the job all by himself because, whimpering with worry, the village chief fears that their savior will end up getting seriously hurt on the mountain. But, squeezing the old man's calloused hands, our brave protagonist projects confidence to calm the situation. Beaming, our hero promises that nothing bad will happen to the village or to him. Bowing low, the old man cries with emotion, thanking the boy endlessly for his great kindness because, waving from a distance, the elderly man continues to send good vibes as our hunter goes on his way. Walking deeper into the woods, the young man enters the dense forest, searching for the terrible beast's hideout. But, looking around, confused, the warrior finds it strange not to see any tracks of his targets on the ground, so, turning his head quickly, our protagonist hears some very bizarre noises coming from a corner. Peeking through the bushes, the guy catches a glimpse of an ugly little creature getting fresh water from a spring, because, drinking thirstily, the small green monster gulps down the liquid, making a really annoying noise. Frowning, our boy is completely baffled by the peaceful scene in the middle of the woods. However, eyes widening in amazement, the hero catches the gang of goblins relaxing like old guys in a sauna. But, observing the enemy's downtime, the skilled hunter finds the situation perfect for a sneak attack. Summoning his magic panel, our protagonist decides to take advantage of the beast's distraction to act quickly. Pulling a shining blue sphere from his inventory, the young man prepares to test his new minion. Planting his feet firmly, the brave guy pushes off, suddenly gaining absurd speed. So, throwing the magic ball with brute force, our hero attacks the group, kicking off the big showdown in the forest. Shouting loudly, our hero hurls the shining blue sphere, yelling to summon his slave minion. Zipping through the air, the magic orb flies straight toward the camp, catching the monster's attention, because, hitting the ground, the ball just rolls without summoning anything at all, completely shattering the boy's expectations. Breaking into a cold, embarrassed sweat, our young man freezes on the spot, not understanding why the spell failed so badly. But, staring at the little blue ball, the green beasts quickly notice the invasion and begin to prepare for combat. So, their faces twisting in anger. The enemies point their rustic weapons, focusing entirely on our hunter. Eyes widening with tension, the guy realizes with a shock that this was not the right way to use the magic, because, trembling with fear, our boy curses the faulty system, noticing the creatures are already too close to escape. Clenching his fists tightly, the protagonist accepts that he's going to have to face this tough situation all alone, but, screaming like maniacs, the little monsters charge forward in a furious attack, wanting to slice up the intruder without mercy. Leaping with daggers at the ready, the creatures aim straight for the guy's neck, testing his every limit because, yelling to build up courage, our hero tries to dodge the mortal blow, throwing himself backward in a quick move. Suddenly shining intensely, a mysterious light blinds everyone, stopping the enemy attack mid-air. However, his eye widening in amazement, the young man sees a razor-sharp blade slice through the wind, stopping inches from his face. Slicing through the beasts with brutality, the minion emerges from the shadows, proving the summon worked in an epic way. Sweating bullets, the protagonist is completely paralyzed with shock at the sight of the creature before him, because, flashing back to the past, our hero notes that this monster was his very first summon in the old game. Decking out the minion with the best items, the kid spent all his rare resources to make him strong. Emanating a terrifying aura, the little creature single-handedly defeated 100 waves of enemies back then, so, carrying the best equipment, the magic panel gears up the soldier, turning the small ally into a living legend. But, gathering a colossal amount of magic energy, the minion prepares a devastating attack, glowing intensely. Charging forward like a rocket, the powerful combatant flies toward the enemies, tearing through the very air because, spinning with brute force, the companion brings down his heavy weapon, creating a destructive impact on the ground. Exploding from the ground, a gigantic pillar of blue light sweeps through everything, pulverizing the enemy beasts. However, landing softly on the field, the armored monster reigns supreme over the defeated creatures, proving his strength. Trembling with pure terror, a surviving green enemy breaks into a cold sweat, staring at the terrifying scene because, screaming in desperation, the coward turns tail and tries to flee, running into the middle of the woods. So, leaping high, the tireless ally pursues his prey, ignoring any chance of the target's escape. Glowing intensely, the magic boots activate a special ability focused on aerial movement, which is why, crashing down like a blue meteor, the powerful minion reaches the last opponent with a formidable, crushing blow. Diving from the sky, the powerful minion crashes down like a meteor, destroying everything in its path. Trembling with pure terror, the little enemy monster realizes its end has come in a fraction of a second, because, smashing the opponent, a brutal blue impact wipes the creature off the map without a chance to defend itself. Ending the tense combat, the Dark Warrior eliminates the threat with absurd ease. So, watching from a distance, our hero is left completely speechless by such overwhelming power. Sweating bullets, the kid wonders in admiration how his old minion got so strong in real life, but, turning its head slowly, the small monster faces its master, letting out some strange grunts, because, walking calmly across the field, the creature approaches while the young man stammers out a thank you. Tapping our protagonist's chest, the green warrior leaves the guy totally confused with its gesture. Puffing out its chest proudly, the minion strikes a pose, proving it's just begging for a compliment from the boss. So, his face twisting in disgust, the hunter finds that bizarre, sparkling look coming from a hideous monster strange, which is why. Flashing on the magic screen, a system notification appears, revealing that the creature's friendship is at level 20, but, scratching his head, our young man thinks it's crazy to have an affection system, just like in those dating sims. His eyes widening in shock, the kid discovers that maxing out this bar grants a brand new ability. Robotically hugging the monster, the self-serving hero showers the creature with fake praise, instantly gaining 10 points. Shifting focus, our hero walks calmly through the forest, reflecting on the battle. Staring at the defeated bodies, the young hunter finds it strange that no loot or gold coins have dropped, because, grunting excitedly, the small minion gets its master's attention, approaching the fallen beasts. Searching the corpses, the little monster uses its dagger to pull something out from inside the enemies. So, displaying the prize in its hands, the helper shows 3 super, bright blue stones to the boy. Scratching his head, our protagonist is confused by those gross minerals pulled from the bodies, but, pointing behind him, the agile minion warns that something mysterious just appeared behind the guy, because, appearing and floating in the air, a bluish energy creates a magic rift right in front of our hero. Analyzing the glow, the young man is shocked to realize the thing looks a lot like a mini-dimensional portal. Holding up the small stones, the green partner prepares to show how things work here, so, tossing the crystals without a second thought, the little monster throws the stones straight toward that bizarre light. But, swallowing the items, the portal sucks everything in quickly, glowing brightly like a black hole. Beeping on the blue screen, the system confirms the automatic sale of the crystals, dropping 30 gold coins into his account. Putting it all together, the guy understands that in real life, the creatures drop mana stones that serve as cash. Patting the little creature's head, our hero praises its smart move, gaining another 5 affinity points. Walking calmly through the forest, our hero decides to quickly collect the proof of the completed mission. Feeling the earth shake violently, the guy freezes upon hearing some bizarre rumbling sounds behind him because, echoing throughout the area, the terrifying noise scares away the birds, shattering the peace of the woods for good. Turning his head, startled, the kid wonders if there are still other beasts hiding in the region, but, peering into the darkness between the trees, a tense atmosphere takes over, heralding a massive danger. So, cracking tree trunks in half, an absurd brute force starts to clear a path, destroying the undergrowth. Smashing through the foliage, a colossal figure emerges from the shadows, making our protagonist look like an ant. Because, sweating bullets, the warrior instantly notices that this huge thing is far from a simple goblin. His eyes widening with pure terror, the young man feels the crushing pressure of this new threat approaching, but, casting a gigantic shadow over the boy, the mysterious monster raises its hideous weapon, ready to attack. Cursing in desperation, the guy recognizes the beast as a feared giant ogre carrying a massive log, because, shaking in his boots, the hunter remembers that these brutal creatures only show up in high-rank missions. Frowning in confusion, the young man notices a very important detail on the terrifying giant's body. Staring at the monster's skin, our hero spots several deep cuts, proving the beast has already taken a beating. But, swallowing hard, the guy concludes that even injured, the ogre possesses absurd combat power. Flashing on the magic screen, the system warns that there are 3 minutes left on the minion's summon time. Sweating bullets, the kid thinks about running away as fast as possible while his companion growls confidently, because, stomping firmly on the ground, an armored boot steps forward, showing that the alley won't back down from the fight. Wielding its heavy weapon, the green warrior emerges majestically, proving to be our hero's salvation. But, facing the giant ogre, the fearless dark soldier prepares for a completely one-sided fight. So, nodding, the little monster assures him it can handle it, calming the hunter's heart. Accepting the challenge, the young man places all his hopes in the insane power of his brave minion, because, glowing on the blue panel, a flight ability is activated while the kid begs for a victory. Charging forward at an absurd speed, the armored helper turns into a blue rocket, heading straight for the big guy. Roaring with pure hatred, the terrifying monster raises its immense log, preparing a blow with brute force, but, dodging nimbly, the small fighter escapes the mortal attack, tearing through the air with his luminous aura. So, leaping incredibly high, the minion spins in the air, ending up upside down in front of the giant enemy, because, its red eyes widening, the huge beast can barely process the opponent's swift movement. Bringing the hammer down with full force, the dark soldier focuses all his absurd energy into a destructive blow. However, exploding the entire scene, a formidable impact smashes the ogre, creating an immense crater in the forest. Floating high above, the agile minion concentrates all its magic, creating a massive blue flash. Diving with full force, the small warrior focuses his destructive power directly on the target, because, gritting its teeth in rage, the dark soldier shows no mercy to that monstrous beast. Crashing down from the sky, a tremendous pillar of light smashes the giant creature with overwhelming force. But, raising its arms, the big guy desperately tries to block the absurd impact. However, feeling searing pain, the beast takes the hit head-on, suffering severe damage all over its body. Screaming in pure agony, the ogre roars as the energy brutally crushes its muscles, because, pushing the hammer down even harder, the fearless helper increases the pressure to finish the fight. Exploding everything around, a massive shockwave sweeps the battlefield, spreading destruction. Eyes widening in shock, our protagonist can't believe the power of this explosion, which is why, gripping the ground tightly, the young man strains not to be blown away by the powerful gust from the hit. So, toppling over heavily, the enormous ogre loses consciousness, falling defeated and kicking up a lot of dust. But, landing majestically on the beast's belly, the small fighter proves that size isn't everything. Staring intently at his master, the minion shows off its glowing eye as if demanding another compliment. Sweating in relief, our hero gives an awkward smile, realizing he hit the jackpot with this summon. Running excitedly toward the minion, our hero shouts his partner's name, celebrating the victory. Patting the little monster's head, the young man showers the small guy with praise, celebrating the incredible battle, because, beeping on the magic panel, the system announces that there are only 5 seconds left before the summon ends. Handing over the glowing loot from the giant beast, the helper bids farewell to his master, mission accomplished. So, smiling gratefully, our protagonist waves goodbye to his green hero, promising to call him again. But, vanishing in a bluish beam of light, the powerful warrior returns to the castle, needing to rest for a full day. Holding the ogre's magic stone, the kid wonder heck he's going to sell this rare item, because, getting a huge scare, the guy watches a blue dimensional rift sprout out of nowhere right in front of him. Figuring it out quickly, the smart hunter concludes that the portal appears on its own when holding mana. So, sucking the huge stone inside, the light beeps, yielding 100 gold and announcing rewards for defeating the ogre. Eyes widening in confusion, our hero reads in shock that he's won a premium lottery ticket from the system because, recalling the game's rules, he knows very well that the chances of getting a rare item from it are terrible. Glowing intensely in the air, a rift full of magic lightning appears, starting the famous Wheel of Fortune, but spitting out a luxurious golden chest, the mysterious light delivers the prize directly into the lucky protagonist's hands. Staring at the valuable box, the young man remembers that any equipment from it can only be used by his monsters. Reading the blue screen, stunned, the system informs him that items from the chest can also be used by the player himself. Connecting the dots, the kid realizes that the minion's absurd equipment would fit him, because, staring at the hologram, the young man considers opening the box right now to gain an absurd amount of power. However, hearing screams in the middle of the woods, our hero puts the ticket away, deciding to deal with it later. Rushing along the trail, a group of hunters advances, focused on finding the monster that escaped. Skidding to a halt on the dirt, the tracker announces that the massive beast's tracks stop right at that spot. But, sweating bullets, the squad leader freezes instantly, shocked by the scene in front of him. So, her eyes widening, the girl in the group is also speechless at the absurd craziness before them, because, calmly facing the crowd, our protagonist just observes the group without showing any fear. Watching from a distance, the elite team finds the simple guy standing next to the completely crushed monster. Analyzing the famous hunter, our hero recognizes the strong girl from a super important guild, which is why. Sighing in annoyance, the guy figures out this group was the original team that injured the beast earlier, but, trying to slip away quietly, the young man wants to avoid trouble, turning his back only to be stopped by a loud shout. Stepping firmly in front of the hero, the guys in suits block his path, not letting him leave, because, closing in, the big leader crosses his arms, stating that the dead ogre was their exclusive target. Staring coldly at the young man, the hunter questions if he was the one who took down that giant monster. Sweating nervously, our protagonist thinks the suits want to fight over the stolen prey, because, assessing the tense scene, the small group surrounds the kid next to the huge body of the slain beast, but, observing the corpse, the woman is impressed, imagining how the kid managed to win alone. Calculating the beast's strength, she knows that the injured ogre still had a very high level, so, recalling the recent past, the leader knows her entire team took a beating from that creature. Focusing her gaze on the guy, the skilled hunter deduces he must have a very high rank, which is why. Backing away a little, our hero raises a hand defensively, trying to avoid any trouble there, but, smiling gently, the girl introduces herself as the guild leader, extending her hand to the young man because, shaking her hand, our protagonist says his name, revealing he is the hunter Kim Hanel. However, a golden light flashes, and a mysterious notification reveals that a supreme archangel is keeping an eye on the boy. Her eyes widening in shock, the hunter freaks out internally, noticing the interest of a constellation. But, analyzing Hanel's posture, the woman finds it strange that his aura is so weak for someone so strong. Asking directly, the leader questions him again about the ogre, and our boy confirms, stammering a bit, so. Frowning suspiciously, the hunter notices his strange tone, sensing the guy is hiding secrets. Explaining the situation, the woman says they lost sight of the monster and were worried about the village. Evaluating the guy's excuses, the hunter knows that luck doesn't take down an ogre, certain that he's hiding something. Surprising the boy, the leader relinquishes all rights to the slain monster, leaving him very confused because, offering help, the woman assures him that her team will take care of cleaning up and selling the giant carcass. But, sweating nervously, our protagonist is in disbelief at receiving all the profit from a hunt that belonged to their guild. Her face hardening, the skilled leader cuts the mood, warning that there's a condition for handing over all that cash. Staring firmly at the boy, she asks for a small favor in exchange for that giant monster, startling our hero, because, trembling slightly, Hanel thinks he knew he wouldn't get anything for free from that intimidating woman. Quickly sliding a phone forward, the mysterious hunter surprises everyone with a bizarre move. Her aura completely changing, the girl turns beet red, leaving even her teammates speechless. So, yelling in embarrassment, the hunter begs our boy to give her his phone number as quickly as possible, but, eyes widening in confusion, the young man freezes, not understanding this random pickup line in the middle of the forest, which is why. Cutting the scene to the peaceful rural village, we hear the residents celebrating our hunter's victory loudly. Holding Hanel's hands, the old man cries with joy, thanking him endlessly for saving the entire region, because, smiling in relief, the guy announces that the mountain is safe again, receiving many compliments from the humble old man. Talking with the village leader, our protagonist decides to ask an important question. Grinning excitedly, the boy asks where the famous training monument of that region is, because, explaining calmly, the little old man points the right way, stating that the place brings good luck. Walking along the green path, our hero confesses he doesn't care much for superstitions, but, firmly holding the glowing chest, the young man thinks any help is welcome when it's time to open the box. So, arriving in front of the giant stone, the guy hopes that the mystical energy will improve his chances of a good reward. Feeling his phone vibrate, our hunter quickly pulls out the device, breaking the silence of the magical forest, because, staring at the lit, Upscreen, Hanel is completely surprised to read the hunter's name in the notification. Reading the text carefully, the kid sees the warrior offering help with the giant ogre's carcass. However, sighing in confusion, the protagonist finds it very strange that the leader gave her personal number instead of the guild's contact info. Putting the phone in his pocket, our hero decides to focus on what really matters, turning his attention to the chest. Observing the golden box, the young man mentally prepares himself to test his luck in real life, because, recalling the game's rules, the guy knows the chances are minuscule, hoping for a high-rank item. Confirming the action on the blue panel, the hunter agrees to use the premium ticket, initiating the prize opening, but, glowing intensely, the magic box explodes in golden energy, consuming the pass to reveal the coveted reward. Recalling the game's rules, the kid knows the items vary in level, and the color indicates the reward's power. Glowing with a golden aura, rank equipment is usually the maximum rarity a normal player can achieve, but, shielding his face from the bright light, our hero smiles, thinking he hit the jackpot with a golden item. However, his eyes widening in shock, the guy sees the glow's color change to red, indicating something absurdly mythic. Cutting to the city, we see the building where our hunter lives, resting after the madness of the magical forest. Because, sitting relaxed in his usual chair, the protagonist reflects deeply on the mechanics of his new system. Resting his chin on his hand, the young man now perfectly understands how to farm gold, but he's run into another huge problem. Staring at the holographic blue screen, the warrior complains that even with money, he can't select any new monsters, but, analyzing the shop list, he notes that he has 130 coins, and only 2 creatures are unlocked for purchase. Visualizing the beasts, the kid understands the goblin but finds it strange that the ogre is available since it costs much more. Because, putting the pieces together in his head, our hero remembers the bodies stretched out in the woods and finally solves this great mystery. Crossing his arms, the smart guy deduces that the system only unlocks monsters he has personally defeated. Squinting, the protagonist knows that hunting beasts without help to unlock minions will be super difficult. But, remembering the red flash in the woods, the kid's hopes are renewed, focusing on the absurd reward he got from the chest. Displaying a unique, rank magic pair of glasses, the young hunter bets everything on this awesome piece of equipment to overcome his limits. Holding the glowing glasses, our hero can't believe he pulled an almost impossible unique, rank item. Calculating the reward's value, he knows well that a piece of equipment like this is worth more than several excellent items combined. Analyzing the elegant frame, the young man remembers that the system confirmed the player can also use these things because, putting the accessory on his face, the focused protagonist decides to test the power of this rarity right now in his room. Glowing with a very strong blue energy, the guy is overcome by an absurd magical aura upon equipping the mysterious item. A light flashing in the lenses, the hunter feels the difference instantly, realizing the magic really worked. However, his eyes widening in surprise, the kid reads on the panel that all his attributes have increased and he's gained a new ability because, checking the status window, our protagonist celebrates the power boost he so desperately needed to survive. Grinning, thrilled with the result, the young man understands just how incredible the bonus effect of the magic glasses is. Pondering the new trick, the smart guy notes that the sage's eye allows him to see enemy information before a fight. Visualizing the dangerous creatures, our hunter knows that hunting will be 1,000 times easier knowing the target's secrets. But, taking off the frames, the thoughtful hero is troubled by a cruel doubt that won't leave his head, which is why, staring into the void of the dark room, the guy questions the reason for receiving such an absurd power completely for free. Sighing with worry, the young man wonders why he, of all people, was chosen amidst so many strong and talented individuals. However, red danger screens popping up, the system floods the monitor with terrifying warnings, announcing that a horde is about to attack now. Getting a huge scare, the kid sees several red screens sprouting out of nowhere, telling him to prepare for defense. Staring at the bluish hologram, our hero instantly recognizes the game screen marking the start of Wave 701, because, sweating bullets, the guy wonders what this craziness is about, defending against a monster invasion identical to the one in the game. However, imagining the terrifying horde, the young man remembers the absurdly strong beasts that appear in these advanced stages. Backing away in his room, scared, the protagonist questions if he can refuse this mission or what happens if he fails. But, reading the cruel rules, the system warns that defeat will cause him to lose the monarch's castle and all his new powers. His eyes widening in pure terror, the hunter notices an extra warning reflected in his pupil, carrying a gigantic weight because, visualizing the apocalypse, the message makes it very clear that the entire world will be destroyed if he doesn't hold back the monsters. Glowing in front of him, the unforgiving blue timer shows exactly 10 minutes until the massacre begins. His face tense, Hanel tries to process the absurd pressure of having to stop this bizarre threat alone, but, emanating an electric energy, the castle's virtual portal prepares to open its gates to heck, which is why, frowning, the guy thinks it's completely crazy to be forced to play this defense game. Risking his own life, however, Evaluating the penalties, the kid grumbles that the end of the world is an exaggerated punishment for losing a simple little game, because, beeping nonstop, the cruel clock updates the time, ticking down to 9 minutes and a few seconds until total disaster. Taking a deep breath to calm his nerves, our hero decides to stop thinking about the rules and focuses entirely on surviving this madness. Extending his arms, the boy interacts with the holographic screen, preparing to stop the horde of monsters. Recalling the game's tactics, our hero knows the objective is to prevent the enemies from destroying the base's castle, because, flying through the night sky, the original game's opponents were absurdly strong, requiring a perfect strategy, but, slashing with a giant sword, a minion defends the entrance, confirming the importance of troop positioning. Assessing the castle's complex system, the young man remembers that the defensive structures need to be prepared. Analyzing the item tabs, the skilled player trusts his experience to create an impeccable defensive tactic, because, tapping the air with his finger, the guy realizes that all the panel's controls are now touch-based, so. Accessing his available troops, the hunter checks which minions he can send to the battlefield at the castle. Glowing in front of him, the system confirms he got 4 free minions for selling those magic stones earlier. Displaying the 5 monster cards, the kid notes that he doesn't need to spend gold again to use his crew in the game. But, turning his head thoughtfully, our hero wonders if he'll be able to summon that OP goddess again. Cursing in frustration, the guy reads the system notification confirming that neither the monarch nor the butler are cleared to fight. So, hurriedly clicking on the shop, the player tries to hire some extra reinforcements using the gold he just earned, but, receiving another error on the panel, the kid is outraged because the game prohibits any purchases after the wave warning begins. Sweating bullets, his eyes widen when the system displays the bizarre villain who will command this round's enemy horde. Staring in shock at the enemy count, he notes that over 60 wyverns and similar beasts will try to destroy everything. Analyzing the information, the hunter discovers their leader is an absurdly strong, 6-star level creature because, tearing through the red sky, the flying monsters carry mounted dark warriors to invade the castle scene. Comparing the teams, our boy laments his weak cards, asking how he's going to hold off these flying demons. Recalling an old defense failure, the red screen warns of the disaster, making the monstrous disadvantage clear, but, with no gold and no good troops, the young man starts to despair, trying to come up with any miracle strategy. However, suddenly glowing on the panel, a mysterious notification brings a small ray of hope, granting a special privilege. Quickly reading the bonus rules, he discovers he can get 1 defensive structure and 1 item completely free, which is why. Sighing in frustration, the guy still thinks this little boost won't be enough to hold back this whole mess, but, staring at the available options, the smart player starts connecting the dots, remembering his entire career in this game. Grinning with a psycho look, our protagonist guarantees that his veteran title in the game didn't come for free, so, typing the settings at the speed of light, the kid assembles his genius plan to destroy the enemy team in the sky, because, racing against the clock, the time drops to 8 minutes as the focused guy adjusts every little detail on the screen. Dragging the blue holograms, the young man commands the virtual castle's defenses with great mastery and precision. Looking confidently at the weak troops in position, the skilled player is sure he's going to crush the incoming horde in the end. Sweating bullets as the tension rises, our protagonist watches the time fly by on the screen while he finishes the last adjustments. Staring intently at the assembled troops, the experienced player confirms on the blue panel that his strategy is all set, because, relaxing in his chair, the guy takes a deep breath, feeling like he's done everything he could before the clock hits 0 at the castle. Calling them out for a fight, the fearless kid gives the signal for the terrifying battle to truly begin. However, roaring furiously in the dark sky, thousands of wyverns cover the castle, protected by an absurd, brutal power. Floating majestically and imposingly, the Horde Master commands his soldiers with a cold, dark gaze, so, diving like red missiles, the flying creatures descend in force, wanting to tear the entire fort to pieces, because, crashing into the defense, the beast's claws dig into the field, proving the invaders' overwhelming strength, but, exploding with light, a gigantic blue barrier holds back the destructive impact of the first wave of attacks. Frowning in confusion, the feared commander realizes his horde has hit an impenetrable wall. Spreading blue rays everywhere, the magic dome easily repels the enemies, keeping the structure safe because, grinning excitedly, our genius hero celebrates that his plan worked perfectly, observing the dome on the virtual map. Reading the Infinite Protection's attributes, the kid shows that its enormous resistance holds back the most insane damage, but, raising a hand proudly, he says that the OP shield has a rule requiring the troops to be of an extremely low level. Letting out a smart chuckle, the player notes that this was the infamous newbie prize from the game, taking advantage of the mechanic. Screaming like maniacs, the creatures dive from the sky, unleashing insane streams of fire on the entire barrier. Exploding harshly against the defenses, the screen messages show that every attack only deducts 1 point from the magic durability, but, Analyzing the math, the kid sighs, realizing that 60 monsters attacking nonstop would drain the shield in the blink of an eye, because, flashing red, the screen warns that the protection has already dropped by half, putting immense pressure on his shoulders. A sadistic grin spreading across his face, the player isn't fazed in the slightest, guaranteeing he has an OP trick up his sleeve for this. Mashing the virtual keyboard, Hanel's finger becomes a blur of speed in a frenzied, absurd clicking spree, because, showing the healing on the screen, the defense bar regenerates 1 point for every tap the guy makes on the panel, saving the castle. Trembling with exhaustion, the kid's hands are almost fried from hammering the holographic glass, but the blue dome holds firm, so, firing a blast from the base, a colossal beam of light cuts through the night sky, sweeping through the formation of winged enemies. Hitting the middle of the pack, the creatures feel the impact even though the damage is minimal, showing that someone is attacking them. Because, casting spells from inside the bubble, a small squad fires nonstop at the giant flying monsters. However, holding a trowel, the scrawny minion glows red, showing that the weapon is the key to the tactic because, displaying the item's stats, the system says the tool always deals exactly 1 point of damage, regardless of the target's level. Leaping excitedly into the air, the green goblin celebrates the puny attacks, making the enemy beast furious at the mockery, but, staring at its prey with fury, the dragon realizes it will eventually go down like a chump if the humiliation of the trowel slaps continues. Grinning confidently, the goblin launches another piddly attack at the huge beast, which roars as it flies in circles. Calculating everything in his head, our protagonist understands that the rest of the battle will be a brutal test of patience. Tapping the blue glass frantically, the young man maintains the frenzied pace, wondering who will drop from exhaustion first, because, the numbers on the shield bar flashing, he notes that the regeneration is perfectly compensating for the heavy attacks from the sky. However, screaming like madmen, the enemy warriors march outside, outraged by the humiliation of the tiny damage from the trowels. Flying in low passes, the winged monsters try to destroy the base while being bombarded by the goblins' annoying hits. Watching the chaos from a distance, the long-haired master's face darkens with anger at that disgusting shield that just won't break, but, raining insane blows on the dome, the beasts don't give up their attack, creating a shower of blue sparks across the screen. Wiping his dripping forehead, our hero sighs deeply, admitting that the clicking marathon is wrecking his arms, because, pausing for a second, he reaches out his tired hand to grab a water bottle from the table, wanting to wet his dry throat. Suddenly getting a bizarre shock, the kid's arm freezes mid-air, prevented from grabbing the water. His eyes widening in pure terror, the young man feels his own body locking up in a frightening paralysis in his room, because, beeping in the middle of the screen, the system blocks everything, sending a red warning that outside actions are prohibited in the game. However, clenching his trembling fists, Hanel feels his hands become free again as water escapes from the side of his arm. Swallowing hard, the focused player lowers his head in anger, realizing he can't even drink water without finishing this whole mess. Frantically tapping the blue panel, our hero understands that his body will be stuck there for a long time. Analyzing the impossible mission, the young man deduces that tapping a screen for 60 hours would drive anyone insane, but, staring at the terrifying dragons in the sky, the skilled player cracks a confident smile, because the game starts now. Roaring with pure hatred, the enormous red monster spits an insane blast of fire directly at the magic dome. Exploding everything around, an absurd flash covers the scene, testing the absolute limit of the protective barrier, because, with warnings popping up, the system shows the shield's durability melting away like water against the brutal attack. However, grinning like a psycho, Hanel admits that this insane adrenaline rush is why he loves this game so much. Frying the defense again, another colossal explosion shakes the castle, demanding perfect reflexes from the protagonist. Mashing the screen, the kid notes that 2 hours have already passed, but there are still more than 50 to go, so, staring at the game with bloodshot eyes, the focused guy guarantees that the threat of the world ending won't make him give up. But, displaying a sinister aura, our fearless hero challenges the system itself, wanting to see who will come out of this alive, because, changing scenes, we see a group of tied-up men in suits discussing a so-called Black Dragon Society. Straining against the thick ropes, the prisoners devise a desperate plan to free their hands and escape captivity. Trying to untie their feet, the team agrees they need to capture the scumbags responsible for this. However, holding a sharp axe, a bizarre guy threatens the group, talking about the severe punishments from their mob boss. Recalling the boss's fury, the sweating hostage confesses that everyone there will be finished off without any mercy. Trembling with fear, one of the suited men wonders how they could possibly capture such a dangerous guy, because, analyzing the beating they took, the prisoners remember they all attacked together and still lost. Their eyes widening in fear, the entire team is startled by a kid in a green jacket appearing out of nowhere, but, Cursing loudly, the tied-up woman demands that the kid untie everyone from those ropes immediately. However, screaming in pure desperation, the prisoner freaks out as a strange liquid starts to pour directly onto her head. The strong smell of the poured fuel confirms the worst nightmare of the hostages trapped on that dirty floor, because, tipping the can without mercy, the psycho kid says he can't leave anyone alive since they saw his face. Yelling curses, the woman tries to struggle while getting a gasoline shower from that psycho, but, laughing with a crazy look on his face, the young man lights a lighter, ready to burn those scumbags alive right there. Rewinding 10 minutes, we see an external view of a simple building in the middle of the dark night. Chatting on the roof, a big guy in a mask complains about the bizarre attitudes of the new partners, because, focusing on the mysterious red can, the suspicious equipment rests on the ground, waiting to be used. Frowning, the experienced partner questions the crazy plan of that smiling kid. However, a smirk on his face, the psycho in green guarantees that the fuel will solve all their problems. Staring at the kid, the masked partner questions why they aren't asking for permission from the main base, because, shaking his head, the psycho rejects the idea, preferring to handle everything his own twisted way. Pouring the mysterious liquid, the maniac guarantees that desperation makes people's minds work better. Holding the lit lighter, the sadist smiles, asking for one good reason not to turn everyone into barbecue because, yelling while tied up, the woman desperately asks why they have to go out in such a cruel and cowardly way. Closing the lighter cap, the young man sighs, complaining that escaping from that huge guild is already a lot of work, but, a bizarre smile spreading, the psycho coldly repeats that he can't leave any witnesses alive there, so. Her eyes widening in indignation, the prisoner shouts that he didn't even try to hide his face from the beginning, because, completely ignoring logic, the psycho keeps repeating the same lame excuse over and over. Staring at the hostages with an empty look, the maniac just states that they all saw his face, proving his insanity. Sweating bullets, the woman finally understands she's picked a fight with a true, completely clueless maniac, but, sighing in terror, she realizes that trying to reason with this lunatic is like talking to a brick wall. Pressing for an answer, the sadist lights the fire again, showing he's not messing around. Crying in pure desperation, the leader begs for her life, promising that everyone will forget what happened there. Shaking in their boots, the hostage guarantees that the gang's boss will keep everyone's mouth shut forever. Smiling cruelly, the psycho says he doesn't believe that nonsense, preparing to toss the lighter. Screaming desperately, the woman begs for one more moment, guaranteeing she'll come up with some solution, because, snapping the lighter shut, the kid in green gives them one last chance in the darkness. Pointing his finger, the sadist warns that if she doesn't give him a good idea, they'll all become barbecue right there, so. Staring at the hostage, the young man grumbles that the boss told him to find the suspects, not to capture the whole crew, but. Taking a deep breath, the kid questions if the famous Black Dragon Guild would let such a humiliation slide, because, observing the unconscious bodies on the floor, he remembers that the gang operates like a super, dangerous mafia. Sweating bullets, the suited men hear that if they survive, they'll be hunted down and humiliated in the underworld forever. Shifting to a dark tone, the kid states that their desperation still isn't enough to save their lives, because, gritting her teeth in terror, the woman tries to come up with a plan while staring at the psycho's hideous face. Observing the tense silence, the prisoners swallow hard, expecting the worst in the middle of that dark warehouse. Lighting the flame again, the sadist smiles, asking if anyone has had an idea to avoid their demise, so. Yelling with all her might, the gang leader claims she just thought of a brilliant plan. Shaking his head, the kid says that just asking for trust won't stop them from being roasted alive, but, desperate to live, the woman promises to tell all the secrets she knows about the guild and asks him to record everything. Closing the lighter, interested, the young psycho tells her to keep talking about this crazy plan. Panting, the woman explains that leaking information about that terrible guild, and even helping to spread their dirty laundry means certain doom, because, trembling while tied up, the suited men agree with their leader that an incriminating video of all of them would be the perfect guarantee. Forcing a smile, she guarantees that with evidence like that circulating, no one would dare open their mouth about what happened there, but, staring at the prisoner, the young man in green processes the blackmail idea, weighing if it's worth risking everything on this. Frowning, he questions if she's sure she wants to bet her own life on such a suicidal and risky plan, because, resting his hand on his chin, the sadist realizes it doesn't make much difference from the danger they're already in. Thinking about his secret plans, the kid remembers the giant briefcase of money, needing to stay in China to launder all the cash. Evaluating the hostages in the dark, he concludes that the woman is just trying to buy time, because she can't speak openly at the moment, but, recalling an old partner, the psycho thinks that getting information on the Black Dragon Society would be very useful, because, turning his head, the kid in the green jacket questions if he'll be able to continue his investigation on the late old Choi. Staring at his masked partner, he asks jokingly if the big guy isn't going to tell him to quit the intelligence agency. Observing the kid, the man in the mask sighs, turning his head and accepting this whole crazy idea of recording the interrogation. Grinning excitedly, the young sadist thinks the idea is perfect and prepares to start the recording session with the hostages, because, turning on his phone's camera, the psycho says he's started recording, telling the woman to start spilling all the secrets right there. Holding a professional camera, the masked veteran admits he's never seen such a bizarre agent in his entire life. Focusing the equipment's lens, the man grumbles that revealing your identity is an unforgivable mistake in this line of work, because, staring at the kid in green through the viewfinder, the experienced spy knows that mistakes like these cost you your life in the underworld. But, analyzing recent events, the old-timer recognizes that the kid took down 17 goons by himself without breaking a sweat. Remembering the crazy plan, the cameraman notes that the young man found a genius way to shut the prisoners up. Evaluating the evidence obtained, the spy confirms they gained valuable data on the drug cartel, which is why, observing the mysterious car, the veteran realizes the kid managed to record confessions in an extreme situation. However, sighing behind the camera, the big guy is torn on whether this rookie is a complete piece of trash or a genius prodigy. So, adjusting the recording focus, the masked man starts the official tape, framing the tied-up gang leader on the floor, because, grinning like a sadist, the psycho tells the woman to state her name and position for the lens. Finding the bizarre situation strange, the cameraman listens to the crime boss stammer as she spills all the dirt. Getting right up in her face, the kid mocks the gang for losing so badly, 17 against 1, leaving the hostage humiliated but, lowering the camera startled, the veteran's eyes widen, not believing the level of craziness of his rookie partner, because, slapping his own forehead, the spy concludes that the agency hired a true, certifiable lunatic for the job. Changing scenes, a huge, shining red crystal appears, confirming that the boy possesses a maximum level power. Watching in shock, the other hunters can't believe the power reading from that enormous crystal. Smiling confidently, our protagonist admits that not even he expected such an absurd result from the evaluation because, recalling the reward, the blue panel confirmed the victory of the previous wave, granting a brand new spell. Reading the ability's description, the kid's eyes widen as he realizes the OP power he just gained. Analyzing the rules, the system allows him to borrow all the attributes of the defeated boss from the last stage, but, adding up the numbers on his status sheet, the monster lord's power elevated the hero's strength to the maximum rank. However, walking calmly, the smart guy remembers that this OP spell has a 30-minute daily limit, so, walking through the automatic doors, the young man knows he needs to keep up appearances to avoid raising any bizarre suspicions, because, displaying an imposing aura, the hunter pretends to be just another rookie who has just awakened at the highest rank. Watching him pass, the employees whisper, impressed by the boy's overwhelming presence. Hearing a stuck-up girl bragging, the protagonist just thanks her for the forced compliment, ignoring her envy. Facing the evaluator, our hero asks directly if that absurd test proved he hunted the giant auger because, sweating nervously, the employee swallows hard, confirming that the power measurement ended any doubt about it. So, smiling gently, Hanel thanks the team for their help, feigning great humility after scaring everyone there, but, waving from behind, the focused young man announces he's leaving the agency staff completely shocked in his wake. Stopping in his tracks, our hero hears a serious, familiar voice calling his name from the end of the long corridor. Turning his head slowly, the kid sees a man in a fancy suit offering a casual coffee to chat, because, approaching with a boss-like posture, the suited man reveals he is the vice leader of the famous Poonbake Guild. Whispering in awe, the surrounding hunters are shocked by the direct invitation from the team's powerful big shot, but, politely declining, the protagonist turns down the coffee flat, shattering everyone's expectations in the building. Her eyes widening, the stuck-up girl is startled when the hero announces he will only discuss business with her, because, turning his back, our boy walks down the huge corridor, leaving everyone with their jaws on the floor at the refusal. Blinking in astonishment, the vice leader can't believe the rejection he just got, wondering where that arrogant lunatic came from. Scrolling through his phone, our hero reads the bombshell news about a new S-rank hunter appearing in the city. Sitting relaxed in his room, the young man smiles, finding it incredible that he became an internet celebrity in the blink of an eye, because, clicking on the system notification, the player receives the official message from the association updating his hunting license, but, sighing in disappointment, the kid realizes the rules limit him to rising only 3 ranks at a time, landing him at B rank. Turning on the camera for his subscribers, the protagonist starts the stream, greeted by the folks who were already waiting. Smiling excitedly, the hero greets the chat, which is on fire with rumors about his rejection of the Poonbake Guild. Reading the gossip, the young man sees people debating whether the S-rank kid really turned down an invitation from the best guild in the country. Grinning confidently at the hologram, the player finds it funny that people haven't figured out the news is about him. Changing the subject, the kid announces he's brought a completely new segment focused on the life of a real hunter, because, building suspense, the young man teases his viewers, creating huge anticipation for the next level of his stream. Extending a hand to the camera, the guy asks the chat to choose which dangerous dungeon he should clear first, but, frowning, a buff subscriber points out that live streaming hunts is strictly forbidden by law, so, explaining the association's rule, the system warns that recording inside dungeons is a very serious crime. Raising his arms excitedly, Hanel guarantees he'll just show the certificate of completion to prove the feat, because, getting everyone hyped, the subscribers start screaming in the chat, suggesting he fight in the evil dragon's nest right away. Money pouring onto the screen, people donate, suggesting he face the giant's dining hall to generate a lot of entertainment. His eyes widening at a massive 1 million donation, the buff subscriber asks the kid to rip off the Spider Queen's legs, so, complaining about the rich guy in chat, the audience is outraged by the absurd amount, demanding even worse challenges, but, taking a deep sigh, the protagonist tries to calm everyone down, asking for a second of patience on the stream because, suddenly getting a shock, the young man blinks in confusion as a bizarre notification explodes on his screen out of nowhere. Glowing with an absurd golden flash, the astronomical donation of 10 million blinds everyone watching the stream. Screaming in surprise, the subscribers freak out at the huge sum, imagining the mysterious user must be some disguised millionaire. Swaying under the pressure, the kid politely asks where this rich guy wants to send him, because, suddenly appearing in chat, the mysterious hooded user announces his terrifying recommendation. Pointing a finger, the stranger asks him to go to the Garden of Contemplation, a horrifying place in real life. Shaking in his boots, the buff subscriber warns that this dungeon has never been completed in human history, but, resting his chin on his hand, the focused kid remembers that this bizarre place is divided into 3 different areas. Analyzing the hunt's rules, the guy knows that only the entrance is safe, while the center is super dangerous. Floating thoughtfully in his room, the young man recalls that clearing the center is the current limit for hunters in the country. Recalling the news, the hero remembers that only the vice leader of Pungbake managed to survive in the middle of it. But, scratching his head, discouraged, the kid thinks it's crazy that this rich guy wants to throw him right into the deepest, most deadly area. Smiling from under his hood, the mysterious donor eases the rules, saying the guy doesn't have to clear the dungeon because, rising from the virtual floor, the stranger promises that just reaching the deep area will secure the mission's prize. Screaming in panic, the people in the stream tell the hero to refuse the money, warning that going that far is certain doom. Sighing heavily, the young man agrees with the crowd, but the money tempts his heart to accept the challenge. But, with a determined look, our protagonist considers that with the help of the Lord's magic, the mission might be possible. Closing his eyes to think, he evaluates the risks of the Garden of Contemplation, accepting his big chance. Jumping excitedly at the prize, Hanel yells, confirming he'll take on the suicide mission, leaving the stream shocked because, changing scenes, a huge glass building appears, cutting through the city's clear sky on a new workday. Sitting at the association's desk, the focused kid confirms the name of the dangerous dungeon and requests clearance immediately. Her eyes widening, the receptionist checks the data, perplexed, asking if he's really going to try to reach the depths there, but, turning her head slowly, the woman warns that the place is absurdly fatal for a hunter who works without a team, so, looking at her firmly, our protagonist guarantees he can take care of himself and asks the lady not to worry, which is why, typing quickly on the keyboard, she says there's an opening for next week, frustrating the excited guy's haste. Smiling awkwardly, the young man politely asks for an earlier time, since his schedule is completely free, because, checking the system, the receptionist arranges a miraculous opening in the schedule for the next day's afternoon. Bowing in thanks, the kid says goodbye to the woman, relieved, feeling the weight of the mission's anxiety. Striding firmly, the confident hunter walks calmly through the courtyard, mentally preparing for the crazy hunt. Turning his head in surprise, our hero is suddenly stopped by a guy in a suit asking for his name in the middle of the sidewalk, because, appearing out of nowhere, 2 very fancy guys in suits introduce themselves and ask the kid for a minute to talk. Smiling sheepishly, the 2 reveal they are official recruiters for the powerful Aegis and Sonera guilds in the city. Analyzing the business cards, our hero connects the dots and realizes this is all thanks to his recent S-rank test. Displaying their elite crests, the suited men brag about representing 2 of the 3 biggest guilds in all of Korea. Offering him the world, the recruiters promise to match any salary offer Pungbake made because, walking right past them, Hanel coldly cuts the conversation short, thanking them for the invitation and making up a quick excuse. Taking a deep sigh, the protagonist deduces that joining any guild now would only interfere with his system's secrets. Leaving the surprised agents behind, the focused kid thinks about his real objective for that exciting day, so, holding the phone to his ear, the young man grumbles that the Garden of Contemplation is the only thing that matters now. Cutting the camera to a fancy office, Vice Leader Yoon Soo-huk answers the call, confirming he remembers the place, but his eyes widen in indignation. The old-timer yells, asking if the kid has lost his mind wanting to go into the depths. Explaining with a sneer, the veteran boss remembers he himself almost kicked the bucket just clearing the central area of that dungeon, because, grinning confidently on the phone, our hero states he sought out the big shot precisely to get inside information. Frowning seriously, Yoon questions why he would hand over his secrets on a silver platter to such an insolent hunter. Laughing, the protagonist guarantees he has the power to clear the depths and promises to give Pungbaek the credit if he wins, but, his eye widening, the vice leader jumps out of his chair, shocked by the young man's absurd confidence in going to a place like that alone. Sitting back down, the suited man analyzes that the rookie must have a very OP ace up his sleeve to bet his own life, so, sighing heavily, the veteran swallows his pride and agrees to help, revealing all the tips he's gathered from that cursed dungeon. Talking on the phone, the vice leader grumbles that his guild is the only one truly interested in the kid. Remembering the suited men, our hero says that the rival guilds already came after him earlier today because, frowning in shock, the experienced old-timer can't believe the competitors were so fast. Seething with rage internally, the suited man freaks out, imagining those vultures trying to steal his prodigy rookie. But, smiling sadistically, Hanel uses this gossip to manipulate the boss, ensuring his proposal is a great deal, so, sighing in total defeat, the leader sinks into his chair, accepting he has no choice but to help the guy. In a very serious tone, the veteran makes it clear that his information stops right there in the central area of the dungeon, because, a confident grin spreading across his face, our protagonist guarantees that this knowledge is more than enough to win. Facing the immense magic tower cutting through the sky, the fearless hunter arrives at the feared Garden of Contemplation. Stepping firmly into the challenge area, the young man notices that an entire team of hunters is already gathered at the entrance, so, walking calmly with his magic glasses, our hero realizes he ended up being the last one to arrive, but, whispering among themselves, the hunters give him dirty looks, thinking it's crazy for that kid to want to enter the dungeon all alone, because, politely extending his hand, the bald leader of that team introduces himself as a member of a very famous guild. Shaking the veteran's hand, our boy says his name, confirming he already knows about their group's fame. However, grinning excitedly, the old-timer reveals that the news of the S-rank rookie has already spread throughout the city, proving the kid has become a legend. Staring at the bald man, he grumbles with envy about how supreme rank hunters have it easy, complaining about the wait because, squeezing the hero's hand, the leader says that the young man entered the dungeon alone and will have to fend for himself. Showing off his full team, the veteran makes it clear that his guild has important missions to handle. Gripping the boy's hand firmly, the old-timer warns in a threatening tone not to dare ask them for any help. However, smiling very calmly, our protagonist just agrees with the condition, finding all this arrogance rather amusing because, turning his back irritated, the bald leader says that the magic test means nothing in a real fight, so, observing the group, Hanel realizes the reception was much more hostile than he imagined, noting he's a nuisance there. Thinking about the system, the kid understands their anger, since they had to wait a whole month while he got in instantly. Adjusting the frames on his face, our hero decides to test the power of that mythic item he got from the golden box, because, activating the glasses' special vision, the young man analyzes the team, discovering they are all just low-rank hunters, but, smiling in relief, the protagonist is happy to know that none of them are strong enough to follow him and discover his secrets. Staring at the leader from afar, the guy scoffs at that tough guy having such a weak level, losing his fear of running into him, so. Noticing the stare, the bald old-timer asks what the kid is laughing at, and our hero plays it off, making up a quick excuse because, picking a fight, the veteran's goons freak out, thinking the rookie was making fun of the boss's bald head and wanting to beat him up. But, interrupting the brawl, an employee turns on the glowing green crystal, telling everyone to be quiet to start the mission for real. Yelling to the crowd, the employee announces it's time to open the feared magic portal. Glowing with an absurd green energy, the dungeon entrance reveals itself as the group hurries their pace because, passing through the light, Hanel feels butterflies in his stomach, admitting it's his first time entering a real dungeon. Vanishing into the energy, the fearless kid takes a deep breath, preparing for the bizarre challenge. Focusing on the objective, the young hunter moves forward, wanting to see what kind of monsters inhabit this place. However, a blue screen flashing, the system displays the dungeon's data, confirming the limit of 20 people there, so. Emanating colossal power, the mysterious divine entity on the throne welcomes our hero. Snapping its fingers, the supreme figure wishes the boy good luck, initiating a crazy change in the game, because, glowing intensely, the entire tower undergoes a bizarre structural alteration at the request of the monarch's castle. Stepping onto the dungeon floor, the bald guy's team exits the portal, thinking they're at the regular entrance, but, frowning in confusion, the old-timer notices the atmosphere here is completely different from what he expected. His eyes widening in shock, the bald leader wonders where the heck they've ended up this time. because, observing the giant landscape, a huge lake glows, reflecting a colossal tree in the center of the forest. Sweating bullets, the veteran panics, realizing this terrifying place is not the main entrance to the dungeon. Stammering in fear, a goon asks about the lake while the boss swallows hard, confirming something has gone very wrong. Murmuring in confusion, the other hunters realize the entrance is very different from what it should be, because, observing the dark scenery, our hero finds it all very strange. Recalling the vice leader's tips, the young man knows the beginning should be easy, hunting cute little pigs in a field, but, assessing the situation, the protagonist realizes the place doesn't match the description, suspecting they aren't at the entrance. Beeping on the screen, the system welcomes them to the dungeon's lake, leaving the bald guy's team in total shock. So, reading the cruel message, the panel reveals that the little monsters were slaughtered and gave up trying to escape. Displaying the main mission, the screen tells them to protect the targets from the scavengers, to gain access to the depths because, his eyes widening in terror, the bald leader freaks out upon reading that failure to defend will result in everyone's demise. Frowning tensely, our boy thinks it's absurd for the system to drop a deadly mission on them out of nowhere. Screaming in panic, the weak hunters beg their boss to open the status panel and quit this madness. However, sweating nervously, the experienced old-timer says, stammering, that he can't activate the exit, scaring everyone because, trembling desperately, the bald leader yells that the system window is completely frozen, preventing the entire team from escaping. But, a new screen flashing, the game announces that 130 piglets are left, and the scavengers have already begun their attack. The count dropping in a red glow, the number falls, proving the cruel massacre is happening quickly. Staring into the dark forest, the group falls into total despair, knowing the enemies are hunting freely there. Flashing on the red screen, the notification shows more casualties on the target's side while the team watches the slaughter unfold, because, sweating nervously, the bald leader grits his teeth, wondering what kind of madness is happening in this place. Yelling at our hero, the old-timer approaches hurriedly, questioning if the boy knows any secrets about this deadly lake. So, turning his head calmly, the protagonist faces the veteran, confessing he also doesn't understand the change of scenery. But, smiling confidently, the young man guarantees he has invaluable information about how this place works, filling the boss with hope, because, sighing in relief, the leader begs the guy to share his strategy, promising his guild would help in any way necessary. However, mocking them, Hanel reminds them that before, they said it was every man for himself, warning he has a condition for talking. Staring at the weak hunters, our hero demands total obedience, telling everyone to follow his orders until they clear the dungeon, because, displaying an imposing aura, the kid asks if they can handle bowing their heads and listening to orders quietly. But, gritting his teeth, a goon is completely outraged, grumbling that the kid is trying to steal their guild's authority. Beeping with another death screen, the system breaks up the argument, announcing that 4 more little monsters have become barbecue. Cursing in pure terror, the bald man gives in to the pressure, agreeing to the absurd demand and ignoring his teammates' protest because, pointing a sweaty finger, the veteran tries to shift the blame onto the kid, warning that he'll have to take the fall if things go wrong. However, cutting the old-timer's tough act short, the protagonist coldly states that the choice to follow his orders was theirs alone, washing his hands of it. Swallowing his own pride, the defeated boss lowers his head, immediately asking what the team needs to do to survive. Beginning the explanation, our protagonist talks about the area's wet terrain. Drawing in the firm dirt, the young man creates a clear sketch of the region with a stick. Showing the drawn map, our hero reveals how the main lake connects to everything there. Because, explaining the details, the guy points to the smaller rivers weaving a web that flows into the still water. So, finding this wisdom strange, the bald leader asks why, and the kid makes up having an exploration spell. But, his jaw dropping, the old-timer celebrates, relieved that the team won't have to wander blindly through the dark woods. Thinking to himself, Hanel remembers that part of this intel came from the guild's vice leader's tips. However, visualizing the blue screen, our boy confirms the perfect aerial view thanks to the Magic Castle's digital map. Leaning on the ground, the smart hunter mentally thanks the OP support from his exclusive system, because, revealing the tactic, the young man points to 8 wetland zones, where the cute little monsters should be hiding. Racing against the clock, our protagonist tells everyone to rescue the little guys before the scavenger gets there first. So, standing up firmly, the focused temporary leader ends his quick tactical briefing, telling everyone to move. But, another red warning flashing, the game alerts that 3 more victims have become jerky, putting pressure on the whole group. Sweating nervously, the bald man panics, yelling for his goons to start the search immediately, because, rushing off, the hunters head to their marked positions, beginning the tense rescue in the dark forest. Staring at the guy alone, the veteran turns his head, confused about the rookie's plans, because, yelling from a distance, the bald man asks what he's going to do, while our hero assures him he'll act in his own way. Cursing under his breath, the old-timer turns his back, calling the kid arrogant before entering the dark woods. Sighing in relief, our protagonist is glad to finally be able to act without nosy people around. So, visualizing the castle's blue messages, the young man confirms the existence of a dangerous secret mission at that lake, but, cracking his neck, the focused hunter decides to start the search for the main objectives there, because, walking silently, he focuses on understanding two crucial things for survival. Thinking about the glowing screen, Hanel wants to uncover the details of the hidden mission and the identity of the mysterious scavenger. His eyes glowing with magic, the young man suspects there must be more beasts in that forest besides the little piglets. Turning his head, startled, our hero hears heavy footsteps in the forest and hides behind a tree, but, observing in shock with his magic glasses, the guy sees an entire army of lizardmen carrying huge spears. Stammering in amazement, the kid recognizes the monsters, noting that these creatures also inhabit wet places because, putting the pieces together, our intelligent protagonist understands that these monsters are the real scavengers. Assessing the danger, the young man knows those beasts are low rank, but their colossal number makes the fight almost impossible. Watching the horde pass by, our hero decides to avoid trouble, remembering the other useless hunters loose in the dungeon. Grumbling behind his back, the guild girl states she won't take orders from that meddling kid. Sighing from a distance, our hidden protagonist curses in anger, seeing the little group walking in the same direction as the monsters because, walking relaxed through the woods, the useless hunters think they'll just mess around until the mission is over. Leaping from above with absurd speed, the huge scaly creature drives its spear into the woman, pinning her body to the ground. Staring with pure murderous instinct, the giant lizard's eye glows, fixing on the next target of its deadly hunt, because, blood gushing brutally, the monster tears apart his teammate, while the big guy jumps back in shock. So, spitting blood on the ground, the man sees his friend's lifeless body, confirming the threat is real and terrifying. Observing the beast's posture, the hunter senses a very sinister dark magic energy emanating from that creature. However, trembling nervously, the muscular man swallows hard, recognizing the famous lizardman from guild legends. Cursing the creature with rage, he leaps into the air, ready to kill the beast, which is a lower rank than him, because, rearing back his fists, the experienced hunter gathers his brute force, preparing a demolishing punch, but, exploding with energy in a white flash, the big guy hits the beast with overwhelming power, destroying the ground. Flying through the air, the shockwave sweeps away the remnants of the scenery, shaking the foliage in a violent snap. Yelling furiously, the fighter convinces himself that the insane punch was enough to finish off the D-rank trash, but, a mysterious purple aura bursting forth, a scaly hand blocks the punch in mid-air, leaving the hunter in total disbelief. Gripping the man's arm tightly, the creature crushes his muscles, proving the difference in strength here is unreal. His eyes widening in shock, the hunter realizes his mistake and reads the system message warning of the terrifying horde buff because, revealing a disgusting change, the rank of all monsters on the map skyrockets, reaching the feared B level. Slashing in a quick movement, the lizard's giant spear tears through the big guy's body without giving him time to defend, because, gushing liters of blood into the air, the experienced hunter roars in pain as he falls heavily to his knees, defeated. Staring at his falling prey, the monster's deadly gaze says this is just the first step to destroying them all. Glowing with blue flames, the small green beast appears out of nowhere, protecting the injured hunter from certain doom, but, grinning for the battle, the armed goblin looks at the huge monster, unintimidated by the size difference, so, trembling with shock, the goblin's blade parries the enemy's spear, sending sparks flying through the dark forest. Pointing its magic staff, the small green minion pushes back the danger, showing formidable combat power because, gasping from his wounds, the big guy can't believe he was saved by a simple little goblin from the woods. Helping the wounded man, our protagonist appears on the scene, coldly stating that he strayed from the assigned route. Sweating blood, the defeated leader apologizes, stammering, but the kid just tells him to fall back and tend to his wound, because, facing the immense horde, Hanel says he'll take the fight from here since the small goblin got the whole pack's attention. However, running desperately, the injured hunter flees, limping through the forest, while the hero tells the green minion they're in a huge hurry. Adjusting his glasses, our protagonist orders the minion to end it quickly because of the urgent mission. Advancing with heavy steps, the terrifying band of lizardmen charges forward, thirsty for fresh blood, because, facing the beasts, the hero raises a finger decreeing their end, and the small goblin glows, activating its combat mode. The blue screen glowing, the movement spell called Crow's Wings accelerates the little green monster like a bluish bolt of lightning, but, slicing through the wind at absurd speed, the agile helper becomes a blur, tearing through the front line of the immense army. Surprising the lizards, the small goblin unleashes a shower of brilliant strikes that confuse the big beasts, because, spinning its blade with brute force, the minion unleashes a powerful spell, cutting down the monsters before they can retaliate. Slicing through the hard scales, the swift helper shows no mercy, lopping off limbs and sending enemies flying everywhere. A blue energy exploding, an immense storm of slashes engulfs the beasts, proving the goblin's absurd strength. However, roaring furiously, the enormous lizard tries to grab the agile goblin, attempting to use its size to crush the green threat, but dodging skillfully, the small warrior escapes by a hair's breadth, leaping into the air before the beast's heavy punch. Landing firmly on a branch, the little monster pushes off again, ready to retaliate with full force and slaughter the invaders, because, spitting blood into the air, the giant lizards fall one by one under the fury of that lethal, scrawny helper. Watching calmly, Hanel smiles, noting the completely one-sided fight and remembering his minion had already taken down an ogre alone before. The ground exploding, the beast attacks in pure desperation, trying to hit anything with its spear, but the small goblin isn't there. Leaping nimbly through the air, the small helper evades the brutal blow, landing stylishly on the big monster's back. Spinning its magic blade, the fearless minion prepares a lightning-fast counter-attack, surprising the giant reptile because, tearing through the thick scales, the blue dagger penetrates deep into the creature's skin, making the enemy scream in agony. Collapsing onto the dirty ground, the lizard warrior completely loses its strength, proving that size doesn't win a battle, but watching in fear, the other monsters back away a little, realizing the overwhelming strength of that little green goblin. So, roaring with hatred, the beasts decide to attack all at once, trying to use their huge numerical advantage against the minion, which is why, glowing intensely, the helper concentrates an absurd amount of mana into its weapon, drawing everyone's attention. Grinning with his arms crossed, our hero watches the show from the sidelines, knowing victory is already more than guaranteed. Because, shooting off like a rocket, the dark soldier crosses the battlefield, unleashing an immense destructive energy. Sweeping the entire horde, a colossal shockwave hits the creatures, sending the lizards flying far away. However, kicking up a lot of dust. The impact takes down dozens of enemies at once, leaving the scene completely destroyed. Blue screens popping up. The system announces that the massacre earned our boy a lot of experience and gold, but walking proudly through the bodies, the little monster sheathes its weapon and calmly returns to its master's side because, patting the green warrior's head, Hanel spouts a bunch of fake compliments just to farm more friendship points. Focusing on the real objective, the smart hunter says they need to get back to searching for the lost piglets in that forest. Crossing his arms thoughtfully, our hero notes it would be a huge problem if the minion returned to the castle now. Rubbing its hands with a mercenary look, the small green goblin makes some noises, suggesting a very greedy idea, because, flashing on the blue screen, the system charges 5 gold coins to extend the minion's time, outraging the boy. But, hearing strange noises in the bushes, the protagonist quickly turns his head, sensing something approaching. Stepping out of the bright light, a gigantic herd of round piglets surrounds our hunter, taking him by surprise. His eyes widening in shock, Hanel freezes completely, seeing that sea of pink sprout out of nowhere in the forest because, sweating bullets, the young man wonders where so many creatures came from, complaining that it'll be impossible to carry them all from there. So, faking a cough, the green minion gets his attention, clearing its throat to show it has the perfect solution. Yelling with authority, the goblin starts giving a lecture in monster language, bringing order to the entire herd. His jaw on the floor, our hero can't believe his helper can chat with the piglets, but, with eyes shining and full of tears, the small round creatures get super emotional from the minion's speech, which is why, jumping on the boy, the little critters start rubbing against his legs, leaving the hunter completely clueless. Walking calmly, the guy realizes the entire herd is now following his every step like obedient puppies. Observing the cute army, the protagonist accepts he'll have to explore the dungeon leading this bizarre daycare. However, praising the goblin's excellent work, Hanel continues on, ignoring the carnage of dead lizards left behind. Reading the bright red screen, our hero is startled by an insufficient funds, error to buy more mana stones. Another warning flashing, the panel alerts that the maximum unit limit for lizard warriors has been completely exceeded because, resting his chin on his hand, the focused kid thinks it's absurd for the great magic castle to be completely out of gold coins. Analyzing the rules carefully, he realizes it makes no sense to keep hunting these beasts if he can't profit from them. So, staring at the round little herd, the young man calculates that he's managed to rescue exactly 60 piglets from the dark forest. Taking a deep sigh, the protagonist deduces that the arrogant team of hunters has saved only 10 little critters so far. But, suddenly turning his head, the smart hunter hears a weird noise that completely grabs his attention in the woods, because, squealing nonstop, the herd of piglets enters a bizarre panic and starts running frantically through the scenery. Frowning in confusion, the guy asks where the daycare is going as the critters fly past them. Chasing after the animals, Hanel tries to catch up to the fast herd before they run into any real danger. However, watching from a distance, our hero is relieved to see the little runaways finally stop their frantic dash in the middle of a clearing. Sweating from exhaustion, the kid rests his hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath and wondering where they've ended up. Because, staring at the immense, illuminated scene, the young man is shocked to realize they've reached the center of the mysterious lake. His eyes widening in surprise, the the protagonist sees that the team of useless hunters was already gathered there. Sighing in relief, Hanel grumbles that the little critters gave him a huge scare but notices a very heavy mood in the air. Observing the hunters, Hanel understands that the piglets guided everyone to the same spot. Glowing intensely, a huge blue light appears in the center, signaling that the enemies have stopped hunting. Popping up on the screen, the system congratulates them for completing the mission, revealing that the secret condition has been activated. Because, exploding out of nowhere, a colossal pillar of water shoots into the sky, creating a frightening magic whirlpool. So, their eyes widening in terror, the team of useless hunters panics at the bizarre scene. But, staring at the mysterious glow, our hero discovers from the panel that the true trial has begun there. Spinning violently, the water turns into a deadly trap, announcing the heart-reaping test. Crashing down with brute force, jets of water fly everywhere, completely destroying the scenery. However, screaming in pain, the weak hunters are thrown far away, swept up by that relentless storm. Because, shooting forward like a bullet, a gigantic wave advances rapidly, wanting to crush anyone in its path. So, sweating bullets, one of the guys from the guild freezes in place, seeing his end approach in a fraction of a second. The attack reflected in his own eye, the side character accepts his fate, knowing it's impossible to dodge it. But, leaping in front of the danger, the herd of cute piglets throws themselves in the way to block the magic, saving the group. Glowing yellow, the small animals create an absurd shield of light, deflecting the full impact of the water, which is why, his jaw on the floor, our protagonist is shocked to see those little creatures risking their lives to protect them. Beeping on the screen, the system announces that the saved piglets are expressing immense gratitude to our boy. Glowing brightly, the message reveals that the little critters will protect the hero during the 10 minutes of this tense trial. His eyes widening in surprise, the protagonist admits he never expected to see those cute little things acting like this. Because, staring at the luminous barrier, the young man is shocked to realize the herd possesses such absurd defensive power. However, putting the pieces together, the intelligent hunter perfectly understands why the system told him to rescue all of them. Reflecting on the challenge's name, Hanel smiles, noting that the creature's affection is saving his life there. But, thinking quickly, the guy deduces that the more allies the better. Turning his head to check on the other hunter's situation, getting a huge scare, the protagonist sees the bald leader struggling in the water, protected by only a single piglet. So, suffering under the brutal pressure, the veteran's little creature can barely hold back the wave, looking like it will give out at any moment. Because, focusing on the timer, our hero knows there are more than 9 minutes left, certain the old timer won't last. Observing the rest of the team, the young man realizes that the situation for all the side characters is at the same level of pure desperation. Trembling in terror, the weak hunters try to survive with few critters, proving the rescue theory was completely real. But, sweating with tension, the kid figures out everyone there is going to drown and decides he needs to come up with an urgent plan to help. So, frowning thoughtfully, the smart guy wonders how the heck he's going to stop that whirlpool when a light flashes on the screen. Revealing a secret mission, the system announces that defeating the main monster will cancel the storm and save everyone instantly. Reading the system's instructions, our protagonist remembers very well that the castle's tips never fail, which is why. Resting his chin on his hand, the focused kid thinks about how he searched every dark corner of the map, and now has finally found the mission. Adjusting his glowing magic glasses, the smart hunter tells himself he needs to quickly find out who the main target is. Preparing to use the visual magic, he says he's going to find out who the scumbag causing all this bizarre mess in the forest is. But, the activation screen popping up, the mysterious power of the eye is released while the water continues to tear the place apart. Because, grinning excitedly, the hero celebrates finding the lizard master as the system activates the creature's secret information. So, his eyes widening in shock, the guy is startled to see that the target isn't a common little monster, but a beast with a name in the game. Staring at the floating creature, our hero confirms that named entities possess unique items and are hard to defeat. But, sighing deeply with his arms relaxed, Hanel faces his minion and grumbles that this weird test isn't going to be a piece of cake. Raising a flat hand, he tells his green companion, asking the little guy to stay out of this sinister fight. Because, turning his face to the battlefield, the protagonist confirms to his minion that it's the perfect time to get new reinforcements. Yelling to hire new allies, the kid hears the roar of the violent waters as the shop screen flashes frantically in his face. Glowing brightly, the blue shop appears in front of the hero while he adjusts his jacket, ready to spend all his saved gold. Pointing to the options, he notes that the ogre berserker has a heck of a resistance to water attacks, making it the perfect choice for the combat. However, scratching the back of his neck thoughtfully, the intelligent young man concludes that even with an elemental advantage, the ogre would need equipment that doesn't exist in the shop. But, realizing the disadvantage, our protagonist remembers he needs a strong piece of equipment to boost the creature's attributes. Pulling out his premium lottery ticket, the smart hunter bets all his chips on getting a rare item, Clenching his fists, the young man knows this is the only chance for the big monster to go head-to-head with the enemy lord, because, exploding from the chest, a formidable golden flash blinds the boy, indicating an extremely high rarity. However, sweating with excitement, the guy's eyes widen as he realizes what that wonderful light truly means. Grinning in relief, our hero celebrates hitting the jackpot with a coveted maximum rank piece of equipment, but suddenly changing color, the mysterious light leaves the boy completely confused, shattering his expectation. The storm's strength increasing, the waters swirl with much more violence, worsening the situation for everyone there, because, ignoring the item's bizarre change, Hanel decides to act fast, confirming the higher on the blue panel. So, glowing with pure magic energy, the system deducts the gold coins, summoning the monstrous ogre onto the field. Roaring with absurd fury, the big guy appears, holding his wooden log, ready to smash anything. Tossing the mysterious reward, the focused player tells the beast to equip the new item, without even looking at the details, because, emanating an insane red aura, the ogre absorbs the power of the glowing item, feeling the energy take over its body. Crashing heavily onto the dirty ground, the big monster drops to its knees out of nowhere, leaving the small green goblin completely confused. Stammering in fear, our hunter sweats bullets, wondering why his war tank just passed out like that. Hearing a desperate scream, our protagonist turns his head, startled by the imminent danger. Gritting his teeth in anger, the kid sees the useless hunters drowning in the brutal current, because, racing against time, the fearless hero charges forward with all his might, knowing he has no other choice there. Focusing his magic, the young man decides to handle the situation with his own hands, activating his secret trump card, but, glowing intensely, the system triggers the OP Monarch ability, granting temporary divine attributes. So, diving into the chaos, the brave guy grabs the side character's hand as an insane red aura explodes. Resisting the water's fury, our protagonist uses all the brute force of this magic to avoid being swept away because, his muscles burning from the strain, the focused hunter feels the magic power tearing through his own body. However, sweating with desperation, the young man realizes the current is too strong, and his hand starts to slip slowly. Finding the situation strange, Hanel notices that the water pressure just decreased out of nowhere, breaking the tense mood. Raising his head in confusion, our hero looks up, trying to understand the miracle that just happened. Because, his eyes widening in shock, the kid sees a wall of muscle blocking the storm, and recognizes his modified augur. But, facing his master, the giant beast now wears mage robes and asks in a super polite way if the young man is hurt. Bowing his immense body, the big monster humbly apologizes for the delay in reporting for duty, leaving the guy stunned. Bearing the ocean's fury on its back, the powerful minion shows absolute loyalty, calling our hero the King of Kings. His jaw on the floor, our hero wonders what kind of bizarre creature he just created there. Analyzing the blue panel, the system reveals the famous S-rank, Magic Hat, focused on granting a lot of intelligence, because, stammering in fear, the kid tries to understand how that dumb monster suddenly started speaking so well. Holding back the ocean's weight, the big guy shows off his new head accessory, blocking the entire storm. But, smiling politely, the ogre explains that the master's incredible gift gave him true wisdom. Clenching its fists with pure loyalty, the enormous beast swears to follow all of our protagonist's orders. Blocking the water's fury with its body, the monstrous alley just awaits the first command from its king, because, sweating bullets, Hanel can barely believe that the magic points transformed the creature this way. Reflecting on the rules, the young man knows that ogres don't talk, but now they can chat just fine. Staring at the minion up close, the intelligent hunter realizes the change wasn't just in how it spoke, but, raising a finger, our hero says he needs to ask a very important question before giving the order. So, asking directly, the kid wants to know if the beast uses magic, and the ogre confirms with great pride, because, grinning excitedly, Hanel realizes his war tank has turned into a combat mage, becoming super OP. Pointing forward, the fearless master orders the ogre to tear through the storm straight to the center of the lake. Advancing with absolute loyalty, the giant mage clears a path through the violent water, protecting our protagonist. Yelling with pure loyalty, the giant ogre swears on its life that it will complete the mission given by its master. A bluish glow exploding, the enormous alley shoves the wall of water with all its might, clearing a path with brute force. Grinning confidently, our hero follows closely and praises the work, calling the creature by its new name, Odolph, because, stammering in surprise, the big monster can't believe it was just named by the king it admires so much. But, crying with pure emotion, the big guy is overjoyed, feeling like his life has completely changed with this affection. Roaring furiously, the ogre berserker promises to dedicate its entire body to repay the debt of gratitude to the boy. Charging like a runaway train, the magic minion crosses the whirlpool with absurd ease. Yelling with red eyes, the beast intimidates any danger in its path, showing its maximum rank power. Because, watching the charge, Hanel celebrates that at this rate, they'll reach the boss long before time runs out. However, its eyes widening, The bluish creature in the center of the lake perceives something terrifying approaching quickly. Sweating bullets, the lizard master can't understand how someone tore through its deadly magic and got so close. Raising its glowing staff, the enemy decides to prepare another terrifying defense to stop the invaders because, blasting through the path, the giant ogre smashes into a mysterious blue barrier that halts their advance, so, stopping its movement, the intelligent minion tells the boy that it's a very strong magical protection barrier. But, cursing impatiently, our protagonist tells his partner to stop messing around with spells and just smash the glass with his fists. Preparing a brutal blow, the giant Odolph raises his wooden log with monstrous strength. Smashing the air, the heavy log collides with the blue barrier, making the entire protection tremble because, observing the impact, the lizard lord deduces that the invaders must be very powerful mages to cause this much damage. But, smirking, the boss guarantees his magic is invincible, requiring both physical and magical strength at the same time. Ignoring the enemy's tough talk, our monstrous ally pulls the log back, preparing another blow. Smashing the shield with full force, the big guy lets out a confused grunt, realizing the glass didn't break on the first try, so, laying into it without stopping, the ogre pummels the barrier, scaring the big lizard, who starts to sweat bullets because, pointing his finger, our genius hero tells the minion to focus its blows on a single point, like breaking bulletproof glass. Cracking the invincible protection, the repeated impacts create huge fissures, sending the enemy lord into a panic. His eyes widening in shock, the blue boss can't understand how his perfect defense is giving way, but, roaring furiously, Odolph raises his weapon for the final blow, proving that this giant mage is not messing around, so, trembling in terror, the scaly villain finally realizes that this sorcerer's physical strength is equal to an ogre's. Destroying the magic wall in a colossal burst, the wooden log smashes the shield, showering the beast with glowing shards because, stepping firmly on the wet ground, our war tank advances relentlessly, showing who's boss around here. Puffing out its chest proudly, the faithful minion praises the master's brilliant mind, receiving well-deserved congratulations from Hanel. Staring in shock at the broken shield, the blue monster doesn't understand how a simple ogre overcame a magic defense like that. Pondering an answer, the villain deduces that the big guy must be a rare shaman but decrees that their finish line is here, because, staring at the duo from afar, the lizard boss prepares a counterattack, thinking the miraculous invasion is already over. Smiling wickedly, the scaly lord guarantees that the giant has exhausted all its mana breaking the barrier, so, gathering an insane amount of energy, the beast invokes a furious water spell, swirling it around its body. Displaying a deathly glare, the villain brags about having magic to spare, promising to eliminate our heroes right there, because, raising the violent waters, a gigantic pillar shoots into the sky, demonstrating the brutal power of the dungeon's leader. Assessing the danger, the loyal Odolph warns his master that this crushing force will be difficult to block head on. However, thinking fast, our protagonist asks the giant to launch a long-range spell just to distract the big lizard. Grinning confidently, the monstrous minion agrees with the king's order, preparing its attack immediately because, fire forming in his hands, Hanel plans to use his ally's spell as a distraction to charge forward with full force, but, getting a huge scare, the kid sees the minion fire a colossal, destructive blast long before he was supposed to. Raising a water shield, the lizard boss smiles, thinking he perfectly predicted the magic attack, so, scoffing at the attempt, the villain guarantees that no spell could pierce his supreme defense. His eyes widening in terror, the blue monster sweats bullets when he realizes the barrier is being vaporized in an instant. Exploding the water barrier, the colossal attack tears through everything in its path, giving the lizard no chance because, his eyes widening in terror, the scaly boss realizes he's about to be crushed by this bizarre magic, but, hurling the flaming log with brute force, the ogre shows how its long-range attack works. Observing the destruction from afar, Hanel gets his ally's attention, realizing that wasn't a spell. Sighing in acceptance, our hero takes the messy win while the minion apologizes for being a novice, so, changing the scene, we see the gigantic commercial building shining under the big city's blue sky. Slamming his hands on the table, the suited man begs the guild leader to recruit the prodigy rookie no matter what. Sitting in his fancy chair, the imposing master of the Pungbake Guild listens attentively to his subordinate's report. Staring at his partner with a sharp gaze, the powerful old-timer confirms if that hunter's name is really Kim Hanel. However, back in the dungeon, our protagonist takes a deep, relieved breath in front of the crushed carcass of the lizard boss, because, watching the weather clear up, the kid wonders if the bizarre mission is finally over. Extending a huge hand, the faithful Odolph hands over the glowing mana stone he pulled from the defeated monster. Smiling gratefully, Hanel praises the giant's easy work, who returns the compliment by calling his master a genius, but, cutting the flattery short, the smart hunter focuses on the money and opens the blue dimensional portal to sell the loot. Sucking in the valuable mineral, the magic whirlpool confirms the special sale, activating the castle's great rewards. Analyzing the panel, the system displays rare tickets and a lot of gold, in addition to adding the slain boss to the hero's base. Deciding to check the prizes later, the focused kid tells his ally to fall back so they can quickly return to a safe location, because, observing the center of the lake, the terrible storm has vanished, returning peace to the entire destroyed region. Approaching quietly, the protagonist greets the girl, who asks in shock if he was the one who stopped the disaster, but, smiling calmly, the young man confirms he defeated the beast, saying everyone can relax in peace now. Bowing, the hunter thanks him for saving her life while the guy asks about the other injured people. Pointing to her wounded companions, she explains that the team was treated as soon as the storm disappeared, because... Interrupting the conversation, the bald leader calls our hero's name, grabbing everyone's attention there. Getting up with difficulty, the injured old-timer asks for attention, making his teammate super worried, but, turning his head slowly, the protagonist faces the veteran, preparing for any antics from that tough guy. Approaching with a serious face, the suited man focuses his gaze on the boy, leaving our hero quite confused. So, sweating bullets, Hanel thinks the arrogant guy wants to pick a fight even after almost kicking the bucket in that dungeon. However, throwing his body to the ground, the bald man surprises everyone by asking forgiveness for his rudeness with a huge, sincere cry, because... Yelling with emotion, the veteran thanks him with all his might for saving his companions from their demise. Extending a friendly hand, the shocked hero forgives the veteran, realizing he knows how to admit his own mistakes. Staring at the bowing veteran, our hero sees the old-timer's sincere remorse after all that chaos. Politely extending his hand, the young hunter asks the leader to get up and take care of his injured partners, because, gripping the boy's hand firmly, the bald man squeezes with great force, feeling an immense relief in his chest. So, crying tears of gratitude, the experienced leader swears he will repay this life debt no matter the cost. Glowing in the air, the system's blue screen congratulates everyone for overcoming the deadly challenge, announcing the rewards. But, reading the virtual message, the protagonist notices that they can now choose to leave the dungeon or advance to the next level. Turning his head in confusion, the old-timer asks about the guy's plans, who flatly replies that he's staying. However, surprising the group, the focused Hanel says he still has things to do, leaving the veteran completely shocked because, stammering with worry, the bald man says it's crazy to continue alone, suggesting they all retreat to the city together. Offering full support, the guild boss promises to arrange a team to help the rookie on his next attempt. But, hearing a heavy stomp behind the hero, the leader gets a huge scare, interrupting the conversation instantly. Appearing covered in flames, the gigantic Adolf makes his presence known while the protagonist reveals he already has an awesome partner, because, staring with red eyes, the terrifying ogre displays an absurd, deadly aura, leaving anyone paralyzed with fear. So, his eyes widening in pure terror, the old-timer's blood runs cold upon coming face to face with a sinister beast like that, loose here. Retreating desperately, the hunters flee quickly through the system, while the kid laughs at his friend's intimidating look. Waving from a distance, the team of hunters thanks him endlessly for everything as they bid farewell to our hero. Glowing intensely, the blue portal teleports all the side characters out, leaving the boy and the giant alone, because, sighing in relief, Hanel celebrates the tranquility, receiving confirmation from the system that the secret mission has been completed. Grinning excitedly, the protagonist opens the panel to check what the great special reward for this difficult achievement will be. So, changing scenes, a huge, luxurious, mirrored building appears, marking the main headquarters of the Pungbake Guild in the big city. Staring at his subordinate with a sharp gaze, the imposing guild master listens attentively about the talented Kim Hanel, but, explaining firmly, the vice leader emphasizes the boy's incredible potential, begging the boss to recruit him personally. However, coldly denying the request, the white-haired old-timer says that the #1 guild in the country doesn't chase after random rookies, because, crossing his arms, the arrogant leader grumbles that the team already has too much work and can't waste time on a simple B rank. Interrupting the tense conversation, the boss's phone starts ringing like crazy, glowing brightly on the fancy table. Flashing a vivid red, the device displays a maximum level disaster alert, announcing a dangerous dungeon outbreak. But, staring at the screen, scared, the guild master wonders if some tragedy happened in a dungeon near the city. His eyes widening in shock, the old-timer's blood runs cold as he reads the name of the terrible Garden of Contemplation flashing on the danger alert. Cutting to the command center, the agency becomes a real mess, with employees running around and civilians being evacuated in a hurry because, arriving hurriedly at the hall, the Pungbake leader demands updates on the situation, leaving everyone relieved by his presence. Reporting the tense situation, the agent says that the feared Garden of Contemplation has just been upgraded to a red alert level. Pleading for urgent help, the employee begs for the guild's assistance while the leader questions him about the hunters trapped inside. Because, quickly checking the data, the suited man with glasses confirms that 6 people managed to escape, but 1 rookie was left behind. Sweating bullets, the agent reveals with great fear that this lone survivor probably decided to enter the dungeon's depths. So, His eyes widening in shock, the white-haired old-timer doubts that any lunatic would have the courage to invade that abyss alone. But, arriving with great authority, the giant leader of the Aegis Guild appears on the scene, greeting his old professional rival. Grinning confidently, the muscular big guy wants to know the Poonbaek boss's opinion on this mysterious suicidal hunter. Glowing with an absurd pink energy, a magic portal appears out of nowhere, catching the attention of the two maximum rank veterans because, turning his head scared, the old-timer senses an overwhelming presence coming from that mysterious light in the middle of the street. However, stepping firmly on the ground, the powerful leader of the Sanera Guild makes her triumphant entrance, showing that the three powerhouses are gathered. Greeting the newcomer, the big guy from Aegis asks if she also thinks the red alert was this invader's fault. Agreeing completely, the imposing woman points out that the danger erupted right when someone stepped into the deepest area there, because, frowning tensely, the Poonbaek leader accepts this theory but wonders who the madman with the power to get that far would be. Rushing over, an agency employee interrupts the conversation, yelling that they finally got the data on the lost hunter. Reading the official report, the messenger confirms that the survivors saw the boy marching straight in the deadly depths. Adjusting his sunglasses, the messenger swallows hard, creating a tense suspense before revealing the invader's true identity. Waiting anxiously, the leaders of the other guilds stare at the agent, wanting to find out the name of this suicidal maniac, because, his eyes widening in shock, the old-timer from Poonbaek freezes completely upon hearing the name of our prodigy, Kim Hanel, echoing in the street.